and you have deadlines to meet, you've got clients you need to reply to all the time. And it wasn't quite giving me that freedom that I really craved. I had toyed before with the idea of launching something that could produce real live passive income in addition to my freelance before, but I never really took the leap until the pandemic hit. The pandemic, as a lot of y'all know, was inspiring for reinvention. So while I wasn't a stranger to it, I still was very new to the world, had no idea what I was doing, learned from the best, and here we are today. In fact, last year, our second full year in business, we surpassed 6 million page views on thesmokies.com, which is our travel blog website, and we produced over $200,000 worth of revenue. So it's pretty incredible.
That is incredible, and congratulations to you for doing all of that. I have to admit, I did those searches too, and I heard that blogging is one of those great opportunities out there for people to get started and really kind of turn it into a money-making career. How did you do it? If you had to look at some of the key factors of turning that blog into a six-figure income, how did you do it?
Well, honestly, again, I'm no stranger to figuring out how to reinvent myself and how to launch a successful company. And one of the key things, and I think this applies to every single industry and anything that you want to do in life really, is that you identify the person who's doing the thing that you really want to do, who's doing it successfully, I should add, and you learn what they're doing. And so what we did is we started joining all of these blogging communities online and really looking at people who were already making six-figure, even seven-figure incomes. And we asked, hey, what are you guys doing? And two words kept coming up for us. It was SEO and SEMrush. And at the time I was familiar with what SEO was. I thought it was just kind of like sprinkling in little keywords on your website and hoping for the best, hoping you'll rank on Google. But SEMrush was kind of the missing component because I found out news to me that there are real tools you can use online that actually tell you exactly what people are looking for. It tells you what kinds of questions that people are typing into Google on a daily basis. And so our real key to success was figuring out exactly what those questions were and then answering those questions effectively. And the second that we started doing that, our traffic skyrocketed. It was incredible. I think on month one, went from having maybe a couple hundred hits to just a few months later, I think June of 2020, that same year, like I said, the pandemic year, I think we're about 300,000, 400,000 hits. It was crazy. And it kept growing from there. So a pretty big deal. Pay attention to what other people are doing and do that thing.
That does sound amazing, and that's great stuff. When it comes to turning it, when you saw, okay, so you did the SEO, looking for what search items people are looking for. Did you have to write a lot? Because I've always heard that okay, if I'm going to start a blog, I just have to put tons of writing in. I mean, how many hours did you spend in the front end of this project?
Well, here's the really cool thing. So luckily, again, we were some of the lucky ones in the pandemic. We really only had about a week or two that was kind of slow, which is really when I launched the website in partnership with my sister, Elena, and my husband, James. But after that, our freelance business really picked up and we looked at each other and we're like, hey, look, we got to find time to also work on this website without losing our, at the time, primary income, which was the freelance income. And so we kind of just dedicated one day a week to knocking out as many articles as we possibly could. And we did it that way for an entire year, essentially. Almost an entire year, I didn't have a 2-day weekend. I mean, look, y'all, anything worth having in life is going to take a little bit of hard work. That's what I tell people all day long. Nothing in this life worth having is going to be that easily achievable. So I would say as far as quantifiable hours were concerned, I would say we were each putting in about 8 to 10 hours a week to really get it going. And now, as it's been growing, we've been able to really integrate it into our normal work weeks. In fact, it's sort of even taken over a lot of the freelance that we were doing before. The script is kind of flipped now. Before we were doing 25% blogging. Now it's more 75% blogging and 25% freelance, which is pretty cool. But the great thing about what we've done is that it did exactly what I set out to do, right? Now, when I take a day off, I'm still making money. Now, when I go on a week vacation, I still get notifications every day that I'm making money. So that passive income, or more accurately, perhaps I should refer to it as semi-passive because it still requires a lot of work to get it up and going. It's not a set it and forget it type thing, but it's still making me money even if I step away. And that's really the freedom that I've craved from day one, right? That's the ultimate freedom. What more can you possibly ask for?
So you said 8 to 10 hours a week is generally how much you spent on the blog. When did you start seeing significant income jumps? I mean, did it start at, I don't know, 100, 200, 1,000, 2,000, and then just 1 month or two just jumped from there?
Yeah, like I said before, it was really identifying that correct tool to use. Like, there's a lot of misconceptions out there about what SEO is. Everybody will love to tell you they can get you on the first page of Google. It's just like some kind of magic thing. I thought I knew what SEO was as a freelance graphic designer because my clients asked for it all the time. I thought it was just sprinkling in keywords. But the key was using those 8 to 10 hours that I was talking about earlier effectively, right? Because at one point when we first launched, we were just kind of taking a guess. Like, I always thought the way that you were supposed to do it, or was the way that you were supposed to do it. But after we really started finding the correct tools, and for us, it was SEMrush, and that's kind of one of the industry leading platforms out there if you guys want to look into it. But one of the things that we did was we actually started doing the research, and that showed us specifically what we should be writing. And that's when we really started to see things kind of skyrocket from there, right? So instead of just using those 8 to 10 hours every week that we had to take guesses at what people may or may not like, what Google may or may not like, we were able to really hone in and make sure that this is what people were looking for, make sure this is what people would like, because it turns out the data was really there all along. So for us, it was learning to use that time efficiently and intelligently and making database decisions versus just what we wanted to write about. And that's really when we started to see the results skyrocket. And I would say within a couple of months of adopting that strategy, that's when we really saw things start to take off.
When you first did the blog, Morgan, was it something where you were getting income one way, and then now are you getting income another way? Give me some detail on how it works.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was the other funny thing. When we first launched, we had absolutely no idea how blogs made money. To tell you the truth, probably like most Americans, I thought blogs were something that we had back in the GeoCities days in the 90s or the early 2000s. I had no idea that they were still a thing that was capable of producing income. It was actually my husband, who was one of my partners on the blog, who discovered an ad network called AdThrive and Mediavine, or two different ad networks called AdThrive and Mediavine. It took a few weeks to get accepted into those programs. Today we start out with Mediavine, switch to AdThrive, but there's a variety out there. Those are just two of the top dogs essentially. But once we got there, we were able to really tap into this programmatic ad network, which produced this incredible revenue every single day. So when you go to our website, if you type in thesmokies.com, you're going to see that there's a ton of ads that pop up. And that's kind of what that programmatic ad network is providing us. That's where most of our income has come from. But there's also this wide world of affiliate sales, right? So for instance, we are a travel blog. There's a lot of attractions in the area near the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, like Dollywood and Anakista, and a variety of museums like the Titanic Museum out there that have these programs that you can enter called affiliate programs, where you help them sell a ticket online by like writing a great review about them or saying, hey, look, I highly recommend doing X, Y, and Z in the Smokies. And if people click the link when you suggest to buy a ticket, you get a little tiny kickback. And so we did ads first, we did affiliate marketing second, and going forward, we're actually going to be doubling down on the affiliates, and we hope to release some digital downloads later this year. But there's a variety of different ways that bloggers make money. Those are just kind of a handful of the ones that worked for us very early on. And of course, there's so many more that I feel like we can tap into in the future. So I'm excited to see where this whole thing goes. I think we're just getting started.
That sounds great. I mean, congratulations once again. You're doing such a great job, Morgan. And I think this is helping a lot of people just kind of understand how it works. A couple more questions here. So how much do you make now? If you don't mind me asking, how much does the blog make now on a monthly basis? And then how much did it, initially start? Because you didn't start right away making six figures. It was a gradual increase. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, I remember we made our first $6 within about a month of launching the actual blog site, and we were jumping up and down in the living room like it was the most important $6 we had ever made in our life. A couple months later, the first month, and that was an affiliate sale. A couple months later, the first month after we launched on an ad network, I believe our first month's earnings were something like $400 or $500, if memory serves correctly. Fast forward to today, I believe our largest month to date, and of course it varies as we are a seasonal travel blog. The Smokies are a little bit less trafficked in like January and February. We peak in the summer and into the winter, but our highest month so far has been around $36,000 in that month. So yeah, that kind of shows you what's possible. And we suspect we're going to be hitting closer to $50,000, maybe even $60,000 by this December. So yeah, like I said, we're just getting started.
Wow.
To go from zero hits in the first month, essentially, to, I believe in our first full year, we passed almost hit 2 million. And then in our second full year to pass 6 million. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, I'm kind of hoping that we'll start to see that 10 million digit roll in as far as page views are concerned. Hopefully in 2022, we'll see. We'll at least get close.
And it's just focusing on the East Tennessee Smokies area, or are you venturing out from that?
Yes, sir. For the most part, of course, the Smokies, the Smokies and the Blue Ridge Mountains were all kind of intertwined, as you know, in East Tennessee and Western North Carolina. So we sort of cover those areas a little bit. Every once in a while, we talk about Tennessee as a state, but our primary market, we've also done a few stories on Memphis, but our primary market is the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and the surrounding areas, the attractions, etc. That was also a model that we had never really seen anybody else do before. So that was a bit of a gamble, to be perfectly honest with you. We didn't really know that a regional travel blog would work. All you ever hear about are, travel bloggers that go all over the world and explore. But to us, we kind of learned that regional travel was even better, even, I dare say, easier. I don't want to use that word. It's been a lot of hard work, but I dare say easier because we get to target this one area that we know and we love. I grew up in East Tennessee. My husband grew up in East Tennessee. My little sister obviously grew up in East Tennessee. So this is an area that we're intimately familiar with. This is an area that we spent our childhood in. I mean, y'all, if you could have told me when I was like 6 that one day I would make money going to Dollywood, I'd have been like, what? It's like, that's not even my dream, and I've essentially turned that dream into a reality. So it's pretty cool.
That is cool. All right. So are there other blogs that you look at and really kind of like or maybe take some ideas from? I mean, are there other ones that you kind of emulate maybe and kind of say, they really taught me a lot of things?
That's one of the tools I was talking about earlier when I talk about SEO. The tool that I mentioned earlier, SEMrush, will actually show you competitive data. And we certainly integrate that competitive data and fill in gaps that our competitors are not addressing, fill in questions that our competitors are not answering. In fact, our main competitors now are actually some of the city and locally run websites. And I believe it was last month, we even started surpassing some of those city run websites who have entire staffs. I think over 40, 50 people, I believe, for the top website working on those. So to bring in more traffic than even them, it's pretty impressive. But to be honest with you, if I were to give you a second giant piece of advice, which is applicable to both blogging and life, is to worry less about what your competitors are doing and worry more about what they're not doing, right? We never seek to copy anybody. I've never been a copycat of anybody. I want to know I want to know how they're finding success. I want to know the strategies and the tools that they're using and explore those on my own. But I think it's really important to be the red tree in the forest, to be the standout, to do something unusual. Because if you're just a copycat, all you're going to be is a cheap clone at the end of the day.
Very nice, very nice. There are a lot of people taking notes in this newsroom, just hearing you talk right now. And I'm sure when people watch this on in a taped interview later on our website, they're going to be wanting to share this as well. When someone is looking at starting a blog, I don't know, can you give like maybe the top 3 things that they need to do right off the bat when they want to start and say, I want to do just what Morgan is doing? A lot of people like to say, write what you know. Is that one of those things? Did you always like to travel?
Oh yeah, I've always loved to travel, but to me, it's a little bit. There's two different components to it. A lot of people say follow your passion, and I say that's great. Follow your passion, but make sure you can make money with that passion, right? We've got a lot of passion. There's several hobbies I have that I'm not very good at, right? I don't think I should probably start a blog on those. There's a lot. I love watching Netflix for a living. There's probably a way to make money doing that, but the thing is that we found a part of our passion. We found one of our passion projects that we knew there was a big audience for. And so that's the piece of advice I would give you there as far as following your passion. Follow your passion and make sure it makes money. As far as the three pieces of advice I would give to brand new bloggers would be as follows. Don't get lost in the details. Launch a simple website. It doesn't have to be the prettiest thing you've ever seen. Just make sure it's a simple theme. Make sure it's fast. That's what's more important because people want to make sure it's loading really quickly without any kind of delays. The second thing I would say is, yes, get comfortable with writing and get comfortable using those tools that I talked about, because that was the real difference maker for us. Before, we were just sort of, when we first launched, writing whatever we thought we should write about because we had no data to go on, formatting it however we wanted to format it because we didn't know any better. So research those tools that will really give you those guidelines to show you exactly how to write, will actually give you a score on your writing and predict with almost 90% certainty exactly where you're going to rank on Google, which is pretty awesome. And then 3, make sure you turn that traffic into dollars. That's, of course, what you got to do at the end of the day. So research those ad networks that I mentioned earlier, research those affiliate programs, can think about what kind of digital downloads that you can sell. Those are 3 of the most popular ways. Courses, if you're doing something more on the business side, those are also very popular right now, online courses. So yeah, those are probably the 3 things that I would recommend. Don't get lost in the details, build a simple website, learn how to write articles that Google will love and that your readers will love, and then figure out how to make the money, honey.
Sorry, Morgan. Listen, I really appreciate everything you've said. It's a great conversation. I found it very interesting. Congratulations on your success. And I really think a lot of your tips have really helped other would-be bloggers out there. So appreciate the conversation very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Andrew. I appreciate it.
Whether it's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we are always focused on the weekend. We're focused on the weekend. We're focused on date night. We're focused on what we're going to do, who we're going to see, where we're going to eat. And that's why it's so important to talk to Jennifer Chandler, the food reporter at the Commercial Appeal. And Jennifer, I guess we're talking about date night, right?
Yes, we're definitely talking about date night places if you really wanted to impress that special someone in your life. These are the restaurants in Memphis where I would make a reservation to go. They most of them are a little bit of a splurge, but they are serve great food, great service. They're some of Memphis's top restaurants. And not only am I going to share what I think are the 10 most romantic restaurants in town, I'm going to share what my favorite table for 2 at each one of these restaurants is.
I love it. I love it. And I love this list. Let's hit it.
Okay, well, we're going to start with A. It's kind of an alphabetical order a little bit here. So Acre is one, and this is this restaurant in East Memphis. And I think a lot of people don't realize it's there because it's kind of tucked away off of South Perkins, kind of right where the road bends there. But look at this table. They have this table for 2 this was in a former home. So in the front dining room, which is the smaller dining room, there is this great fireplace, and there is this table for 2 in front of the fireplace, and you just feel like you're, someplace, especially in the winter, someplace very romantic. And it is my favorite spot in the restaurant Acre. The restaurant is by Wally Joe and Andrew Adams, 2 fabulous restaurateur chefs, and they do great food. And if you haven't been there, you need to check out Acre. And if you're going for a date night, ask for that table. But you can't go wrong with any table there. Next on my list is Andrew Michael Italian Kitchen. And Andrew Michael, again, I love these places that are in homes because I think they would create this kind of like intimate dining experience that you don't that you feel like you're kind of like this special person in someone's home. So they have these lovely dining rooms, but my favorite place is in the bar, and they have these banquettes that they created, and you can't really quite tell from this picture, but the banquettes, the sides are really, really tall. So when you sit in those banquettes, you feel like you're the only person in the restaurant. And I love that kind of nice, cozy feeling. Any seat in this restaurant is definitely romantic, and the food is great. And one of the things that I always do when we go there is I love their pastas, and I could never pick one. So we always share. So I think that a lot of the things on their menu are great for kind of like sharing for two. So definitely Andrew Michael Italian Kitchen, and ask for one of those booths in the bar. So moving on, Chez Philippe. So Chez Philippe has been, the quintessential fine dining restaurant in Memphis for decades. And they closed during COVID back in March, and they didn't reopen until this past fall. And so whereas the dining room is still that elegant, room that they have all the, you can see all of like the faux marble and all of there's no place like it anywhere else, but they're doing these tasting course menus there now, and they're really over the top, excellent wine service. I went in December and enjoyed my meal and my experience there. I will say, if you're going to Chez Philippe, just plan on, it's a 2 to 3 hour meal. It is it's a production, but it is very romantic. And especially if you really want to splurge, I'd say get a room at the hotel afterwards. So that way you don't have to go home after enjoying your multi-course meal. And I forget how exact number it is. It may be 8 courses. It's a lot, but it's pretty fancy.
Yeah, I love Erling Jensen's. I was fortunate enough to be there last month, and it was a 7-course with wine pairings on each course. Unbelievable, modern French. You can't beat it.
Yeah, well, we'll mention Erling's now. That's on my list too. And, but you don't have to, you can go for a special event where you have a tasting menu like that, but Erling's does do also a la carte. And, they have my favorite table in Erling's. Is kind of, if you look in the dining room, that it is kind of, there's a two-top table that is in front of the front windows. You can see it in this picture. You can see those windows right there. There's a two-top right there, and you just kind of feel like you're a little bit away from the fray of everything going on in the restaurant. And yeah, there's a reason Erling Jensen has been, the top chef in Memphis for, I would say he's probably going on 30 years, because I had a date night with my husband at La Tourelle when he ran La Tourelle, and we've been married 25 years, and that was before we got married. So, but Erling Jensen, that's in East Memphis. It's off of Yates. Again, it's in a former home, tucked away. It's just very, very, very charming. Going back to kind of my alphabetical order, if I can keep in it, is Coastal Fish Company. Now, this is not in a home. It is not intimate at all as far as like the site, but it has the best view, in my opinion, of any restaurant in the city of Memphis. It's sitting on the banks of Hyde Lake and Shelby Farms Park. And if you go at sunset, look how stunning that is. Just absolutely beautiful. And one of the things that's great about this restaurant, I love any scene in this restaurant, but there's this fabulous, huge patio, and in the summertime, they have fans going. So after sunset, it really kind of cools down. But in the winter, what they do is they have put up sides that run across the front that are glass sides. It's a partition. It doesn't go all the way up, but they have heaters. So, if it gets down to 20 degrees, it's not going to be comfortable there. But if it is 50 degrees, 60 degrees, in Memphis, do not hesitate to sit outside and ask for one of the tables that is on the edge of the patio, that directly over, you have the front row seat to that amazing view of a sunset. And don't be afraid to go to dinner early. I know early bird special, it's really not a special, but as far as, a 5:30 or 6, just time your reservation around sunset, and it's worth going to dinner early just because it's so breathtaking. Next on my list is Dory. And Dory is back on Brookhaven Circle. It's actually right next to Andrew Michael. And Dory is a lovely restaurant by David and Amanda Krog. And it is a tasting menu, kind of like we were talking about Chez Philippe. And my favorite table in this restaurant is, you can see right here, it is in the front corner, right across the street from right across from the kitchen. So they have an open kitchen, so you can watch the chefs in action, and it is just really kind of fun. And since it's right there in the corner and has that partition, again, you feel like you're kind of intimate, and you feel like you're kind of in your own little private dining area. And those chefs are at this restaurant are so talented and so into what they do. It is so fun to watch them preparing your meal. So Dory is on my list, and I forget the exact night, but I should have written this down, but I believe it's on Wednesday nights. They do a little bit shorter. It's either Tuesday or Wednesday nights. You need to double check online, but they don't do their full course 6-course tasting meal. They do a smaller one that's 4 courses, so that you don't have to make as big a time commitment when you're eating at Dory. But it's such a fabulous dining experience. I just love it. Okay, next on my list is a Memphis classic that's been around forever, Folks Folly. It's Memphis's original prime steakhouse. I mean, it's been around since the 70s, and there's nothing like those steaks that come to your table sizzling in butter. I mean, I've never had that anywhere else. But again, this is like all these other restaurants I keep saying that are like in those old original homes, but they have these private dining rooms that can seat 2 to 4. Sometimes they can seat 6, but they're kind of they have these curtains, and they're kind of partitioned off, and it's just a really charming way to have a really intimate, romantic dinner, especially if your special someone loves steak. Folks Folly Prime Steakhouse is where I would go for that experience. Napa Cafe is right around the corner from Folks Folly. This is again in East Memphis. It's in the Sanderlin Center. And owner Glenda Hastings has just created this just really welcoming, well done restaurant. It's got a nice wine list. It's got a really good wine focus. And there are several places in this restaurant. I had a hard time choosing which I was going to choose my favorite romantic table, but I decided to do this one, which is called, it's in Jan's Room. It's this little nook that is off the side dining room, and it has kind of this glass sliding door, so it kind of looks into the main dining room, but it has a banquette in the corner, and it has some of her favorite cookbooks and some memorabilia on the walls behind you, and you can snuggle in that little corner and just be a little away from everything, but still have a view of the restaurant and everything going on in there. If that table is not available, there's also a private dining room in the wine cellar as well, so which is another cool experience. But again, every place of these restaurants that I'm mentioning, I'm telling what my favorite romantic table is, but there's really not a bad seat in the house. Then Supper Club on 2nd. So this is a really kind of cool, different dining experience. This is on kind of right across the street from the Peabody. And this table right here, you can see is in the front window. There's one that's right in the front table, and there are like 2 or 3 right there in this kind of like nook there. And there are 2 tops. And that is where I like to sit, because one, you can kind of look out on the street, but you can also look back and see the scene going on in this restaurant. So the food is excellent. I went recently, and I had their version of a lobster pronto pup. I think they're called lobster dogs, and they were really good. And these short ribs that were just over the top. But I will say this one is kind of a scene a little bit, because it has a club-like, it's a restaurant, it's a fine dining restaurant, but there is a club-like atmosphere a little bit, like there's loud music playing, kind of like this kind of cool soul R&B, and it's, the lights are dim, and it's a fun, different dining experience. And as I said, I love to sit in one of those front 2 high top tables and kind of watch everything that's going on in the restaurant. It was funny, when they were opening it, they told me that a supper club, originally back in the 50s was, you would go to dinner and you would watch a show. And they said that they were hoping to create a restaurant where there wasn't a show per se, but dining there was the experience, was part of the show. And it definitely is kind of a fun and different kind of cool vibe to go to. And then, one more on my list, and it is a a very new restaurant, the Lobbyist. So the Lobbyist at Chisca is in the historic Chisca building that is on South Main, kind of a little bit, kind of a block or so away from the Orpheum. And this is a restaurant by Chef Jimmy Gentry, and it opened in January. And it is really cool if you, especially, this is one that, a lot of times if you have people that are vegetarian, you can't take them places to eat. If your Valentine or your special someone is a vegetarian, you can take them there and they will have a fabulous meal, because he has a whole big section called produce section, and I swear you will not miss the meat at all. But he does have great meat. I mean, he has great steaks, and he has fish dishes and sweetbreads and all those things. But he does vegetables really, really, really well. And so the table that I love there is that one that's under that great piece of artwork. It's in they call their PDR, their private dining room. And you just kind of feel like you're off in the corner. It's a really nice little place, because especially under that chandelier, you can see it's breathtaking. But again, not a bad seat in this restaurant as well. I think I did all 10. I hope I did all 10. But all of these places are just really true Memphis originals. They're all owned by Memphians. They're all, Memphis originals, serving great food. They have good service. They're worth the splurge, as I said. Whereas I picked my favorite tables, and you can go to commercialappeal.com/food and see this list, and it does talk about each one of these tables, and each one. Any seat in these houses, any seat in these restaurants is absolutely perfect.
I love that list. It is a great list. There's only 2 places I haven't been, and I got to check them out. But that list is fantastic, Jennifer. And my apologies when I interrupted you before. I said Erling Jensen. I meant to say Chez Philippe. I was at Chez Philippe last month, and it was 7 courses and wine pairings at each course. So it was. It's just such an amazing dining experience. You can't go wrong. But you can't go wrong, as you mentioned, with any of those restaurants. They're just so good. I love it.
Well, Memphis is so lucky to have so many great places here. I mean, it's really amazing. And I have to admit, when I make these lists and I have to narrow them down, it's, first I was going to do my top 5, and I was like, I can't narrow it down to 5. I've got to do 10. And I probably could have mentioned a few more. There's so many great places here in Memphis. And I just, I always encourage people is just look and see. We've got so much cool stuff. We have a really great restaurant scene, and I shouldn't probably say this, but my daughter lives in Nashville, and I've been going there a lot this year, and I go to all these places that supposedly are the best restaurants in Nashville, and we sit there and we're like, this is not as good as what we get in Memphis. So
you know what? You're not the first person that has told me that. They've said the exact same thing. We went to this place in Nashville, so we got plenty of those and better ones in Memphis. So yes. You're absolutely right, 100%. And take Jennifer's recommendations on these restaurants. They're so good. Commercialappeal.com/food. Jennifer Chandler, as always, thanks very much.
Thanks. Good to see you.
All right, let's talk about cybersecurity awareness, because that is the month of October. In addition to Breast Cancer Awareness Month, it's also Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And get this stat here. More than 75% of Americans recently shared that they were targeted by an online scam, which can include donation scams, tech support scams, romance scams, cryptocurrency scams, and much, much more. Does that surprise you? It doesn't surprise me, but it's certainly pervasive, it seems, in every part of the country. Let's bring in a cybersecurity expert right now. Jaya Balloo is joining us. And Jaya, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. And I understand that the sandwich generation seems to be one of those generations that really has a lot of responsibilities when it comes to this. The sandwich generation, my understanding is that, because I'm a part of it, you have aging parents and you have kids. The kids tend to be skewing a little bit younger. Is that what the sandwich generation is? Let's define it for everybody.
You're absolutely right. That's exactly what it is. And just like you, I'm also part of it. So it's not an easy spot to be in, because you've got this double role where you have to be the primary caregiver, both for your kids, but also make sure your parents are okay. And one area that's often overlooked when we're doing all the other responsibilities is around cybersecurity.
Yeah, one of the most frustrating things for me, especially when my father-in-law lived with us, was that how many phone calls he got from the constant people that, you know, may sound nice over the phone, may sound trusting over the phone, but it was a bunch of garbage, and it's just so frustrating. So what's the best advice for not only managing what older Americans have to deal with when it comes to scams, but also our children too?
Yeah, so the good news is that both for the older Americans that we need to take care of, as well as those younger kids that we've got as our primary role, they're the same stuff that we have to do for both of them. And I like to kind of couch it into three things. Like, the first thing is prevention, making sure that they have some good cyber hygiene practices ready to go that are enabled by default. And that can be a good antivirus, a good web browser, and a strong VPN that they can use because they want to be connected from anywhere on every device all the time. So that's a good starting point. Majority of threats are blocked. The second thing is just really about detection, being vigilant, watching out for those red flags, knowing when to recognize one of those phone calls is completely illegitimate, that your bank never wants to ask information about your passwords or that kind of stuff by calling you, and especially an unsolicited call asking you for information is not normal. So watching out for those red flags is the second thing, really being vigilant and paying attention to that scam-like behavior. And the third thing, which is really not easy to do when it happens, but you need to kind of prepare it before it happens, is in case you actually do get attacked or do fall initially for the scam, how to stop it quickly, and then also how to get help, whether that means informing police or finding someone in your network that can actually undo the harm that was done. Having that ready before you need it is super important to getting this right.
What about for younger children? By the way, I love that response. That was excellent. Cyber hygiene. That's a term that I want to develop there and just kind of use from now on. And VPN. I mean, I feel like VPNs are just so underrated right now. They need to be more prevalent. What about for younger children out there? Because the older Americans, that seems to be, it gets a lot of press about ways to protect older Americans, but sometimes our children are left vulnerable on screens and devices. What are some good practices for some of the parents out there?
So I'm a mom of 3, and I've got to tell you that in some cases, I find my kids way more savvy, even though I was hacking from the age of 9 and I feel like I really know what the internet is. I find them super savvy on some of these social media platforms, and they've already figured out, how to have hacks for games. They're doing all this stuff. And I feel like the best way to educate them is not to prohibit them from doing something. And especially as parents who may be less tech savvy than their kids these days, the best thing to do is to have that conversation about what is safe, what is acceptable, how to spot something that, is doing something that's actually evil. And also we need to worry more about our kids about things like cyberbullying. Are they actually having a good time on some of these social media platforms that they're on? Or when they're exchanging information while they're playing Fortnite or whatever, that information is not something that's actually confidential. When they're being requested to send images, how they actually protect their profiles on any of these platforms, just making sure it's invite only, and that the photos that my daughter, for example, is uploading, that they're not just being spread out. I'm trying to take the role of not saying no, because I don't want to find them circumventing my advice, but finding a way to actually have a dialogue and really talk to them and engage and let them understand what the threat is so they make the best decisions they possibly can.
I know you mentioned a little bit about this earlier, but for viewers out there that want to secure their household as much as possible, virus protection software, that sort of thing, passwords, maybe 2 identification verifications, that sort of thing. Give me a list of the best preventable ways so that you're not hacked.
Okay, so I mean, we started out with those three. I love this, by the way. I could do this all day. But we started out with those three of a good antivirus. And again, it doesn't matter to me which one you have, as long as it's a solid antivirus. And you can go out there and look at AV comparatives or any of the other sites to figure out which one fits your price range and your purpose best. Start there. The second one is really, when you go online, a good secure browser. Third one is a VPN for all of your devices, so that when you're using the internet from other Wi-Fi points, that you're still safe. And then, like what you mentioned, a lot of platforms that we engage with online already have two-factor authentication enabled. We as users, though, need to turn it on. There's some user involvement in order to be able to use that benefit that's already there. So I urge everybody on the platforms that you use, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is, WhatsApp, etc., Signal, turn on that two-factor authentication mechanism that's there. If you don't know how to do it, Google that for the platform that you're using. You'll find an easy set of instructions. The other thing about passwords, now, I have to tell you, this is a drama, and it's always been the worst thing ever. People do not like complex passwords because they don't remember them, so they wind up writing it on a sticky note or losing it or whatever. So the best thing is to have a unique password for everything you're using, and then to manage that with a password manager. So the easiest way to do that unique password for every site, and then having it slightly complex, is to let it go into a password manager. And there's a bunch of good ones out there. Pick one. Make sure you use it, consistently, use it across your different devices, and already that will make a huge amount of difference. There's also like small things that I like to point out, which is really, when you are getting links in emails, just don't arbitrarily click. Try to find out where that link is taking you, and then you can better click that by yourself by typing it in, if that's a valid and legitimate email. Try to have, for sensitive information, an offline channel, like a phone call that you can make to verify that that's legitimate requests that you're actually getting.
I know you got to wrap up a little bit here, Jaya, but what about social media with our youngsters out there? They're on it a lot. What are best practices for social media?
Well, again, like my thing that I do with my kids is to just agree on a certain amount of screen time to monitor usage. And one of the things that I did with my son very early on is that we actually read the terms and conditions of the platform that he was using. And it sounds absolutely horrible and a terrible thing to do with your Sunday afternoon, but it's actually really useful, because then they suddenly understand that they're being followed and tracked even when they're not on that social media platform. And all of that off-platform activity about them is used to collect information about all of their browsing behavior. And so when my son found that out, he actually said, you know what, I don't want to do this now. This is not the goal. We want to empower people to embrace online technology and be having some concept of digital freedom when they go online. But again, it begins with the dialogue. Just start the conversation. I think that's a great thing to do in this month of cybersecurity awareness.
What a novel concept, reading the terms and conditions. I love it. Is there anything else we can go to for more information, some of the things that you've said? It's been fantastic. Where can our viewers get that information online?
Well, just start at the Avast.com sandwich generation site. So www.avast.com sandwich generation. And we have a bunch of resources there. There's an online quiz to test your awareness, stuff that you can print out and share with your parents. Just start there. I think a good starting point is, already means you're doing a lot of good effort for the future.
Well, Jaya Balloo is the Avast Chief Information Security Officer, and great tips, great conversation. Thanks so very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Day 2 of sunshine, but windy conditions across the Mid-South. In fact, winds are going to gust up to 30 miles per hour, especially between say noon and about 2 p.m. So be aware of that. Hang on to your hat this afternoon. But again, temperatures will be rising towards 70 degrees. In fact, we'll look for those temperatures hitting 70 between 3 and 4 o'clock with all that sunshine today. Check out afternoon highs in West Tennessee, mid to upper 60s, so a little bit cooler here. 67 in Ripley, 67 Alamo, 67 in Bolivar. In the low 70s across North Mississippi, maybe even some mid 70s over toward Clarksdale with full sunshine, and eastern Arkansas around 70 degrees in Wynne, 71 in Forest City, and 71 degrees in Helena. Let's talk about our next warm front. It's going to come into the picture as we go into Thursday. Before then, we'll just be high and dry as high pressure rolls across the mid-south. But this warm front could bring a couple of waves of rain, maybe some thunder. Nothing severe expected out of this. But new data this morning actually showing some clouds and some rain possible by Thursday afternoon. So this may be the beginning of some of those showers and maybe some heavier downpours as well. And some of that will continue off and on as we go into Friday morning and Friday afternoon, especially along and north of I-40. We'll get some breaks here and there. It's not going to rain the entire weekend, but certainly Friday night into Saturday morning, we could see some showers. We'll get some breaks again in the afternoon on Saturday. And then on Sunday, again, it doesn't look like a washout by any means. It's just going to be scattered shower chances through the weekend. So we'll call it a 40 to 60% chance. Many of you will not see as much rain as others. Some of you will have to keep that poncho handy at Beale Street Music Fest just in case. But again, I'm not forecasting a washout by any means. We'll keep you posted on the Action News 5 First Alert weather app. There could be some changes to the timing or intensity of rain and certainly the placement of it. So check back as we get more data in, especially by, I'd say by Thursday, we'll have a really good idea about Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But temperatures will be in the low to mid 70s, lows at night and rising into the 60s. It's going to be quite warm at night and near 80 again as we head toward the weekend with off and on rain chances. And this wet pattern could continue somewhat into next week.
Want to switch gears now and talk to many of those viewers that are watching both on Facebook and our digital platforms, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and Roku, about the job-seeking market and how to get your LinkedIn profile specifically up to where it needs to be. Amp it up a little bit so that it grabs those employers and says, hey, look at me. Hire me, consider me for this next job. Let's bring in the Senior VP of Marketing for Recruiter.com, Angela Copeland, joining us. Angela, welcome back. How are you?
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yes, I appreciate you joining us. And let's talk about that market out there. So the last time we talked to you was several months ago, and you told us it was really a job seekers market. Is that still the same? And from your perspective, and how important is that LinkedIn profile these days?
It's a great question. You know, the market continues to be very exciting right now. You know, things are really changing. As you've seen, some big companies have had layoffs, things are changing. But we actually do a poll each month called the Recruiter Index. And we found for our latest poll that sentiment is up among both job seekers and recruiters. And as you know, the unemployment rate continues to be relatively low, considering everything going on in the market. So I think it's a great time to continue looking, and LinkedIn is a great place to start.
You know, so many of us have LinkedIn profiles, and a lot of times, you know, we're unsure exactly, at least I am, of what to exactly post on LinkedIn. I mainly contain it to professional skills, professional workplace, not something that's silly. You know, I'll put that on other social media platforms, but only strictly with work-based stuff do I put on LinkedIn. Am I doing right? What's the best way to really enhance your LinkedIn profile?
Yes, you are. So first of all, I hear from lots of job seekers who say, do I really have to do LinkedIn? Is it really that important? And yes, it is, especially if you have a job that's kind of a desk job. LinkedIn is critical. And I agree with you. Social things are meant for Facebook. LinkedIn is for professional. LinkedIn has a lot of different uses. So, one thing to keep in mind is that a lot of recruiters actually use LinkedIn to find candidates. I have heard from a ton of job seekers over the last year who've gotten cold calls from recruiters that are interested to interview them for jobs. And those interviews actually turn out to be jobs. But the way the recruiters found them very often was by looking at their LinkedIn profile. So, what you want to keep in mind is that when a recruiter is looking for someone on LinkedIn, they actually search. They have a special tool where they can sort of search through LinkedIn profiles. So you want to be sure that yours is up to date. You want to have your current job, all of your current skills. There's a headline that you want to be sure to fill out because that actually helps you to go sort of up in the search rankings in LinkedIn. And you want to have a picture because you want to show those recruiters and the employers that you are a real person and that you're really there looking for a job.
So many people will reach out on LinkedIn to try and network with other professionals. Is that a good or bad idea? What are the parameters of networking on LinkedIn?
I love networking on LinkedIn, but you have to do it the right way. You don't want to come across like a spammer. You don't want to be bothering people. But it is a good way to reach out. And very often it can be a good way to research a company and see if you can find who the hiring manager is or who the other people are that work at that company. I think that is a really solid way to use LinkedIn. If you want to reach out and mention that you've seen a job posting that you're interested in and you'd love to ask more questions or that you'd love to sort of share a little bit about your background, I think that's great. Assuming that LinkedIn is sort of like your one-stop shop to getting free meetings all day, every day is kind of a bad tactic to be taking. But I think, LinkedIn can be an excellent source. There are also a lot of groups on LinkedIn that you can join that are specific to sort of industry or job function. And it's a great way to meet other people that are in your industry and to really connect with them. But I think last but not least, there is an entire section of jobs that are posted on LinkedIn. So if you're looking for a job, you can actually go and look up jobs at all different companies, not just LinkedIn, but many different companies, and find a fit for what you're looking for, and then you can actually apply. So it's interesting because you can use it in a lot of different ways, to stay in touch with people you've worked with, to make new connections, and then to apply for things you'd like to do in the future.
Great advice, Angela. What about the do's and don'ts? I get people coming to me saying, I don't know if I'm posting too much on LinkedIn or if I'm not posting enough. You don't want to bother people, but at the same time, you want to get your name and brand out there. Are there some good do's and don'ts that people should be following?
Absolutely. You touched on one, which is really keep it professional. When you have your photo that you're uploading, make sure that it is just you and that it's recent. I've seen pictures in the past of people that are in a wedding dress or that are at a party or have a drink in their hand. That is not a LinkedIn photo. So there are things like that you want to keep in mind. You want to, again, keep your profile up to date. I would say keep in mind, though, that if there are certain things that are confidential about your job or your company, don't post those in your LinkedIn. Have discretion. Again, don't reach out to people too often. If you are posting, you can actually share posts similar to Facebook. You can kind of share updates on LinkedIn. And I would keep those to things that are truly useful information to the folks that you're connected to. You don't want to be posting sort of random things that you might otherwise see on a site like Facebook. And I would also follow sort of social etiquette norms where you're not talking about things like politics, religion, money right on your LinkedIn. Think of it almost like a dinner party where you only know these people so well and you're there to make a good first impression, but it's got to be kind of surfacey to some degree.
LinkedIn has certain levels, premium, the free membership. When should we go for the premium?
It's a good question. The good news is they have a trial, and I always suggest to job seekers sign up for the trial and see what you think about it. You can get away with not having it, But if you are actively looking for a job, sometimes signing up for the paid service can be helpful. The big feature that I think is really useful to job seekers is that it allows you to send what's called an in-mail. And that means that you can send kind of like an email within LinkedIn, but to folks that you don't otherwise know or you're not already connected to. And each month, if you have a paid subscription, you're allocated, I believe it's maybe 5 in-mails that you can send, and that can really help you as you're applying. To me, that's really the biggest difference, although I do think it's possible that LinkedIn tends to prioritize the paid members above the non-paid members when it comes to applications and other, communications within LinkedIn. So I think there's a slight advantage, and it's not too terribly expensive. But I would start out with the free trial because you can certainly get away with using that.
You mentioned earlier about your picture, make sure you have a picture on there. And I'm curious, a lot of times people don't know the kind of picture. Do you want a picture where you're sitting at a cubicle? Do you want a picture where, it's like a glamour shot? I mean, can you give a little clarity on the picture?
It's a great question. When it comes to your picture, it doesn't have to be some professional photo that you hire a photographer to take. You can have a family member or a friend take it, and you could take it with a phone even. But it does need to be, a shirt or a dress that you would wear in a professional environment. And you want to have good lighting. You want to have the picture be recent, and be sort of in a space where there are not other people around in that photo with you. And it should primarily be your face. Those would be the guidelines I'd really try to stick to with the photo.
This has been fantastic, Angela. Really appreciate the insight here. Anything else you want to mention before we let you go?
No, I think, if you're ready to look for a job, start now, because it can take months and you don't want to put it off. And, I would say one of the biggest fears job seekers have is, gosh, what if I get that job offer and it's not for me? But if it's not for you, you can just turn it down and keep going. So start looking.
How long would you say that it takes someone to get a job in this market?
Oh, it's such a good question, because so often as a job seeker, you'll get feedback from your family and friends who just can't believe that you don't have a job yet. It really depends. At an executive level, it could take 3 to 6 months to go through an interview process once you find the right job. But sometimes if you're sort of like in an entry level position, say right out of college, that process could just take a few weeks or maybe 1 to 2 months. But first, you've got to get in front of that hiring manager, and that takes time. It takes persistence. So, get out there and start applying now.
Angela Copeland, thanks so much. We appreciate the insight each and every time we talk. Thanks for taking a few minutes with us today.
Thank you.
Okay, are you among the millions of Americans looking to buy your next home this year? Perhaps you're looking at the higher interest rates, maybe questioning whether or not you should buy, even if it's possible in our current market. All kinds of trends. Maybe you want to find the right home right now. Maybe you want to wait. Let's talk about the state of real estate and the latest housing numbers, and perhaps a little bit of advice right now. Let's talk to RE/MAX President, CEO Nick Bailey. He joins us on the Action News 5 digital desk. Good morning, Nick. Let's talk about the latest housing market trends that you're seeing. How are you?
I'm great, Andrew. Thanks for having me. Well, I can say the spring market is here, and it has some bright spots. We're off to a good start. For example, on average, home sales are up just over 30% from February to March, which is a big number. However, there are a few other things that are happening that I think is important for buyers and sellers to know. Is even though the spring market's off to a good start, inventories are still fairly tight. And even though inventory levels have come up, you look at in the Memphis area, just over 47%, they're still fairly low. And that's what's keeping prices where they are. Prices in your area have only in the last year come down around 1%. So they're holding fairly steady. But for buyers, there's something that's even more important happening that's helping them, which is they're not competing against as many buyers right now. And houses are actually selling for around 1% under the the ask price, which is vastly different than a year ago when buyers were competing against multiple people and most houses were selling well over their asking price. And so that all combined right now is good news for buyers.
With higher interest rates, especially higher than last year, Nick, what do buyers need to know in order to get into the right house?
Well, interest rates have definitely been at the center of the conversation over the past many months. And so I think the most important thing for buyers to realize is that having a good lender, shopping your rate, and more importantly, looking at maybe mortgage products that are not just the 30-year fixed rate. Everyone has only been talking about the 30-year fixed because it was so low. But the reality is right now, there are lower interest rate products available for buyers. Things like adjustable rate mortgages. There are interest rate buy down opportunities, first-time home buyer programs that have lower rates. All in all, we kind of have a saying that comes into this market, which is buyers need to marry the house and date the rate. Find the right house for you and make sure you've got the right down payment, but you can always refinance. Shall more favorable rates be in our future?
So, Nick, we have thousands of people that watch us here on the Digital Desk. What would you say if there were like bullet points for those, prospective home buyers out there? If there were 3 bullet points you could give them this morning when it comes to looking for that perfect house, what would it be?
Number 1, have a great agent, because a really experienced, good agent that knows the specifics of the market today can help you navigate the space. And let's face it, buying or selling a home is a complex process and makes people nervous. And having a good trusted advisor that knows how to navigate the market can make all the difference in the world. Number 2, for a buyer, get pre-qualified. Get with your lender and make sure you understand what you can afford with the interest rates, what they are today, so that it can ease your home shopping experience and you will know what price range to match your needs. And I think the third piece is, as a buyer, don't take yourself out of the market just because interest rates have gone up. There are ways to become a buyer today when you've got the right agent and lender on your side, looking at all the options that are available.
Great stuff there. So we've talked about the buyer's market. Let's talk about the seller's market here. Let's say you want to sell in this market, cash out of your house. What do you tell those sellers out there?
So sellers, make sure you get real on your price. Even though your prices are holding.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. There is a new study from the U.S. Census Bureau that shows more than 2.4 million Americans, we're talking grandparents, are raising at least one grandchild under the age of 18. And unfortunately, some of those grandparents have to dip into their retirement savings to meet sudden costs. That is certainly an issue we're discussing with a couple of authors this morning who've decided to join us on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Authors, advocates, experts, super agers. We're talking to Larry Wolf and David Kravitz. They have written a book, Super Aging, Getting Older Without Getting Old, and they challenge conventional wisdom when it comes to aging. Gentlemen, good morning. First, let me talk about the book that you guys have written, because I'm very curious about it. Give me some basic points. David, let's start with you.
The book is based on the premise that there's a new model of aging called super aging, which differs from the old model, which was called default. We call it default aging, which says at age 65, you've got, 10, 12 years to go and then it's over. Not much time left to do anything. Super aging, you might have 25 or 30 years at age 65. The fastest growing age group are centenarians. What are you going to do with all of those years? They can be a very productive time of life. And our book suggests how to maximize that and rethink the whole idea of aging as getting older, but not getting old.
So, Larry, let me ask you, is this more of a, because I've read several books by various people, David Asprey, for one, some books by some other quote unquote biohackers that talk about aging backwards, or just functional medicine being used to age gracefully, the 90 being the new 40, that sort of thing. Is that what we're talking about here?
I think we're talking about a lot more. There's many really good books out, and diet, exercise, we've read a lot of them, talked to a lot of the people who've written them, but we go beyond the typical diet and exercise and lifestyle books to talk about what we call the 7 A's, or the 7 essentials of super aging. The most critical is attitude. You really need the, a positive attitude. You have to believe that, as you turn 65, 70, the next few decades can be years of tremendous accomplishment, growth, fulfillment, a great life as you get older. So attitude really is the critical variable, and from that follows awareness of all the new things that are going on to facilitate not only good health, but autonomous living. Then activity, physical, mental, taking control of your own healthcare, accomplishment. A wonderful piece on our website from a 100-year-old doctor about, quote, retirement is the enemy of longevity. So continued accomplishment, very critical, autonomy, attachment, relationships, very, very critical. The key to longevity is good, fulfilling relationships. And lastly, avoidance. You want to avoid a lot of the negatives that occur, such as ageism, many of the financial scams, etc., as you grow older.
So let's segue from that into what I talked about at the top of this interview, where 2.4 million American grandparents are raising at least one grandchild under the age of 18. David, let's go back over to you and talk about the vital role grandparents play. And is this a trend that we're going to be seeing more of in the future, or is this just kind of a snapshot in time? What do you think?
No, it's going to only increase. That's slightly. There's over 70 million Americans who are grandparents. Over 7 million are living under the same roof with their grandchildren. Doesn't mean they're raising them, but they're in the same home as the grandchildren. And out of those 7 million, 2.4 million are actually raising them. The parents are not there either because of custody, illness, death, social upheaval. So there's definitely a disruption in the normal family. But as you get this larger and larger population of grandparents, the fact that they are increasingly superagers, who are these people that are the grandparents? Well, increasingly they are the superagers. They have a long lifespan. They may not be retired. They will be. They are much more dynamic, much more engaged, much more contemporary, let's say, to their grandchildren than the grandparents of previous generations. That becomes the interesting social phenomenon. Raising grandkids have a whole other set of problems, financial and otherwise, because they now have to step in because there's no parents, and that's a whole other field. But broader than that, the fact that there are so many grandparents and that they're different, they're qualitatively different generation of grandparenting than we've ever seen before.
Interesting. I want to go over to you, Larry, and talk about the importance of intergenerational relationships. I know that I believe that's a point in your book, Superagers, but I want to talk about how intergenerational relationships can benefit everyone. And when it comes to aging, when it comes to society, when it comes to all kinds of different aspects moving forward. Explain, Larry.
Well, absolutely critical. I think what's changed is the ability to relate to your grandchildren really as individuals, to do things with them, to whether it's going skiing, playing chess, playing computer games. I've never won a computer game from any of my grandkids. So there's the kind of interaction, where you're treating them as, real people with something to contribute, something to say, not just children, but really interesting new personalities in their own right. And you can learn a lot from your grandkids as well as mentor them and teach them. So it's really a whole new perspective of grandparenting than from the way I grew up with wonderful, benign grandmothers and grandfathers with whom there was no really direct, meaningful intellectual communication. There was the love, the emotional support, but no really people to people relating. And I think with super aging, that's all really changed very radically.
So let me ask you, gentlemen, this, I think we're all on the same page here. How important it is for grandparents and intergenerational relationships. We're not the issue, okay? But I do think, because I go to my family reunions and we have people who are anywhere from their 90s all the way to their teens, and I do find that some of the younger generation, those who are in their teens and 20s, they like to mock, make fun of, maybe kind of put down some of the older guys and gals. And as a result, there is, I guess there's a proclivity not to listen to them because, oh, they're out of touch, they're old, they don't know what they're talking about. How do we bridge that gap to relate to those younger people, specifically that younger generation? Larry, let's start with you.
Well, I think you relate to that gap by really recognizing their point of view. I mean, they're really right about some things. In some ways, the older generation is not up to date, and it's also a matter of realizing, that you can learn from them. Also, when you're in your teens and your early 20s, you're finding yourself, you're building, you're creating your own identity and your own personhood. So you're going to reject some of what the older generation is doing. I think that's a natural part of the growing up process, and some of it's really quite amusing. I don't think you take it too seriously, really.
David, over to you.
I'd make 2 points. First of all, the intergenerational eye rolling is as old as recorded history. One famous writer said, "I see no hope for the future of our country based on how irresponsible the young people are." And that was Socrates. So for a long time. And I would also throw at you a quote from Mark Twain. He said, "When I was 16, I thought my father was the biggest fool in the world. When I was 21, I was amazed at how much he had learned in the last 5 years." So to some extent, the intergenerational style points, we see it today with OK Boomer, is not a new phenomenon. But there are things going on. I think it's important, and we mentioned some of them in the book. Intergenerational cooperation. There are organizations fostering this. There's some very innovative new housing solutions. One of them at Arizona State, where they built a retirement community right on the campus of Arizona State University. And you have retirees and undergrads meeting in the coffee shop and engaging with each other. You have a huge presence in the workforce. You could do a whole show on this, of how older workers, which are needed now in the workforce, coming back out of retirement, and companies figuring out how to integrate them with younger workers. So I think the thrust of longevity is so overwhelming that there are solutions emerging now to foster greater intergenerational cooperation and dialogue. And I'm actually optimistic about that.
All right. Well, David Kravitz and Larry Wolf, we appreciate your time this morning. Thank you for your discussion. It was definitely needed and something that we hope benefited a lot of our viewers out there, the thousands that join us on the digital desk. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so now I want to show you a live picture from downtown Memphis. You can see a beautiful day ahead. Oh my gosh, not a cloud in the sky. Lots of sunshine, 54 degrees as you get up on this Tuesday morning. And there's going to be lots of sunshine ahead. We got lots of sun here just blasting us in Midtown Memphis from our High 5 camera. Here's the thing, it's only supposed to get to about 70 degrees today. Picture perfect if you ask me. We do have rain in the forecast later this week. Meteorologist Spencer Denton breaks it down for us.
Day 2 of sunshine, but windy conditions across the Mid-South. In fact, winds are going to gust up to 30 miles per hour, especially between, say, noon and about 2 p.m. So be aware of that. Hang on to your hat this afternoon. But again, temperatures will be rising towards 70 degrees. In fact, we'll look for those temperatures hitting 70 between 3 and 4 o'clock with all that sunshine today. Check out afternoon highs in West Tennessee, mid to upper 60s, so a little bit cooler here. 67 in Ripley, 67 Alamo, 67 in Bolivar. In the low 70s across North Mississippi, maybe even some mid 70s over toward Clarksdale with full sunshine, and eastern Arkansas around 70 degrees in Wynne, 71 in Forest City, and 71 degrees in Helena. Let's talk about our next warm front. It's going to come into the picture as we go into Thursday. Before then, we'll just be high and dry as high pressure rolls across the Mid-South. But this warm front could bring a couple of waves of rain, maybe some thunder, nothing severe expected out of this. But new data this morning actually showing some clouds and some rain possible by Thursday afternoon. So this may be the beginning of some of those showers and maybe some heavier downpours as well. And some of that will continue off and on as we go into Friday morning and Friday afternoon, especially along and north of I-40. We'll get some breaks here and there. It's not going to rain the entire weekend, but certainly Friday night into Saturday morning, we could see some showers. We'll get some breaks again in the afternoon on Saturday. And then on Sunday, again, it doesn't look like a washout by any means. It's just going to be scattered shower chances through the weekend. So we'll call it a 40 to 60% chance. Many of you will not see as much rain as others. Some of you will have to keep that poncho handy at Beale Street Music Fest just in case. But again, I'm not forecasting a washout by any means. We'll keep you posted on the Action News 5 First Alert weather app. There could be some changes to the timing or intensity of rain and certainly the placement of it. So check back as we get more data in, especially by, I'd say by Thursday, we'll have a really good idea about Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But temperatures will be in the low to mid 70s, lows at night and rising into the 60s. It's going to be quite warm at night and near 80 again as we head toward the weekend with off and on rain chances. And this wet pattern could continue somewhat into next week.
All right, 2 suspects are on the run after a shootout in a parking lot outside of Huey's in East Memphis off of Poplar. This happened last Sunday night. Action News 5's Bria Bolden shares new details of what we learned about this investigation, including some new video. Take a look.
This video from inside Huey's in East Memphis captures the moments before gunfire rang out at the popular Memphis burger joint. Memphis police say an off-duty officer was involved in a shootout after noticing an attempted car break-in around 7 o'clock Sunday night. The gunfire sent one suspect to the hospital. The other 2 are on the run.
When the police officer identified himself, those car thieves, they didn't hesitate at all because there's no consequence to them assaulting a police officer.
Memphis Mayor Jim Strickland, a critic of Shelby County's justice system, says offenders need to be held accountable by the courts.
Police arrest them and they're let out of court, whether they're adult or children. And this has to stop.
Monday, Huey's was back open for business. We spotted a security guard in the parking lot. In a statement, Huey's officials said, quote, "We know that it is always unnerving to hear of any type of violence in our city." They went on to thank employees inside the store for helping customers take cover.
9 people spoke to police on Sunday. 5 of them had their vehicles broken into. Many declined to speak with us or didn't respond to our request. No charges have been filed. Remember, those 2 people are on the run. If you know anything about what happened, please call Memphis Police, 901-528-CASH. Many are on edge after what happened on Beale Street in broad daylight. Court affidavit says 32-year-old Archie Mays poured a drink on James Postlethwaite, the vendor who sells all kinds of merchandise on Beale. Postlethwaite says it ruined some of his merchandise, so he knocked Mays to the ground. Investigators say then Mays pulled out a gun, fired it, grazing Postlethwaite's head, hitting another man in both of his hands. A tourist was shaken by the idea.
It doesn't make you want to experience Beale Street. It doesn't want to make you see what Memphis is all about.
Mays faces 2 counts of aggravated assault. His arraignment set for this morning. Man accused of starting a fire at a Fraser apartment complex in March is now dead after experiencing some sort of breathing problems at the Shelby County Jail. 27-year-old Antonio Golden was brought into the medics at 201 Poplar yesterday morning, 5:45. He was then taken to Methodist University Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. Sheriff's Office is investigating. Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Tax day is over. Phew, that was close. All right. So we know that we like spending money as Americans, getting the latest and greatest, and the stress of tax day is now behind us. People may be tempted to get something more, maybe splurge a little bit, but hold the phone, okay? Maybe you should budget more. Maybe you should save more. What are you going to do with this tax refund if you're lucky to get one? Let's bring in someone that's going to help us with that. Stephanie O'Connell Rodriguez, a nationally recognized financial expert and author, is here at the Digital Desk to really talk about maybe some better choices of how to handle that tax refund. And Stephanie, I got to ask, what do you think is the first thing that people should do if they get a refund? Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me here. Well, according to Barclays Bank most recent consumer survey, the majority of Americans are actually hoping to use their tax refund to build their financial security. So we've got some pretty good intentions. Now it comes to how do we put those good intentions to build our financial savings, maybe pay down our debt, into practice. And I think in order to do that, it's going to look different for everybody. We got to start by taking stock of our own financial picture and see what we own versus what we owe. And if we owe a lot, maybe we got to take inventory of that debt and see what we owe, to whom, monthly minimum payment, and our interest rate on each debt, so we can prioritize what it looks like to build all those minimum payments into our budget, and then make progress on making payments above the minimum payment on the debt with the highest interest rate, and make progress such that we pay off that debt and then the next highest interest rate debt and then the next, so we can get to our financial security as cost effectively as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's not the sexiest thing to say, hey, wait, you got a big chunk of change. You can't go to Europe or the Caribbean. No, you got a budget. You got to pay off that debt, put some in the savings. I mean, I think that is a great first start. Why is it, though, that so many Americans have just a hard time on saving there? Because we're supposed to have, like, what, 2 months of cash reserves just in case for emergency purposes, right?
That's right. At least 2 months in emergency savings, ideally maybe 6 months, maybe more. After the pandemic, we had people out of work for more than 6 months. So you always want to think about, you know, what's the financial security I need and the emotional security I need to get through another potential financial emergency. Now, when you're trying to figure out how to prioritize this along with your other financial goals, it's really important to make sure that you're making the most of the savings that you do have. So if you go open up a savings account at your local brick and mortar bank, oftentimes you're getting very, very low interest rates on that savings account. And we always talk about, I want to make my money work better for me. But if you're getting 0.35% interest on your savings, which is around the national average, you're really not getting a lot there. So I like to shop around with my savings like I do for anything else. And I really like online high yield savings accounts, which offer interest rates much, much higher higher than the average. Barclays, for example, has a high yield online savings account with a very high interest rate. They've got no minimum balance requirements, no monthly maintenance fees, plus the FDIC insurance. And as you mentioned, people are having a hard time building up this kind of savings, and that's because prices have been on the rise. Inflation has been the big story these last couple of years. Most recent numbers, 5% increase year over year on our cost of living. And that's not just the vacations, the exciting, sexy stuff. That's the stuff we need, like our groceries, like our housing payments. And so if you really want to build this stuff into your budget, I like to make saving, debt payoff, investing a line item on the budget, just like I do those other expenses.
I like that. That's a great idea. High yield savings accounts. And you're right. Inflation is still outrageous. I know we had something that said it's down to 5%. Well, it shouldn't be higher than 2%. It's still affecting us. Eggs are outrageous, and airfare, my gosh, flying anywhere is super high. So I know that a lot of Americans are starting to go back in debt as a result of a lot of things, including inflation. What's the best method an effective method, the most effective, to pay down debt that so many Americans are accumulating right now?
Well, the best method to pay down debt is the one you can stick with, right? So the only way to figure out what that's going to be for you is to, again, start by taking inventory of what you owe and build it into your budget as you're able. I talked about a method that's called the debt avalanche, and that's where you prioritize paying off the debt with the highest interest rate first. For some folks, it might be tackling the debt with the lowest balance first, so you can see the progress you're making, and that then motivates you to make progress on momentum toward paying off the next debt. And I know that it's more cost effective to address your highest interest rate debt first, but again, it's what is going to work for you. Even if it costs you more over the life of your loan, if you're going to stick with it, if you see the progress of knocking out that low interest rate debt first, that's fine by me. Just make sure that as you're doing that debt payoff, you also are building your emergency savings, because if something does come up and you do get an unexpected expense like a medical bill or something happens with your car or your home that you must repair, you really want to have that high yield online savings there for you so you can tap into it and not put it on a high interest rate credit card and add more to your debt.
Just curious, Stephanie, for people out there, how do you find a high yield savings account in your hometown, for example? We're in Memphis.
So typically speaking, you're going to find your high yield savings accounts online. And the reason for this is the high interest rates and the annual percentage yields that you get in those online savings accounts, you get them because they have lower costs of operating. If you don't have to maintain the brick and mortar presence, that's a lot of money saved, and that savings gets passed along to the consumer in the form of these lower fees, in the form of these higher rates. And so going to resources like banking.barclaysus.com will give you information about how you can find your high yield online savings account, and it's really easy to set this up. I have done it. It's how I saved for my wedding. It's the first account that I opened with my husband. Great way to combine finances, by the way. And it's really a great way to maximize the money that you are saving, because when you do just go to your default bank that's on the street, there's a value to that, but you don't get a lot for your money in the savings account, and often in CDs, the interest rate isn't as high as these banks that have the high yield online savings account. So I definitely suggest comparison shopping, just like you do for anything else.
This is a conversation I could have forever, and I know it's very popular among so many people. It's just, financial literacy out there. So let me ask you this. If we have thousands of people that tune in each and every morning watching us here on the Digital Desk, if you were to give like bullet points, maybe 3 bullet points for someone that's looking to have better financial success in 2023, the tax season is now over, tax day has come and gone. What would you recommend?
I think you have to take stock of your full financial picture first. A lot of the times we think we know what we're bringing in each month because we know what we make annually or hourly, but what that actually looks like after taxes, after deductions, in our take-home pay can be very different. And we want to make sure we're planning off of our reality, not off of our aspirations. And then on the flip side, we got to take stock of our expenses. You know, we talked about taking inventory of what we owe and to whom, but also this has to include those savings contributions. This has to include our essential living expenses, housing, groceries, utilities, insurance, all of that good stuff. And making sure, again, we're dealing with the reality of what we're spending, not what we think we're spending, because there can be a surprising gap between the two. And I think the third piece of this is maintaining accountability. So whatever's going to work for you to keep your finances top of mind, I like to say managing my money is a practice. It's not something I do once a year on tax day, and it's not something I do when there's a crisis, because that's just reactive money management. I want to have proactive money management. And so I think a bit like, I don't go to one yoga class and say, all right, I'm done, I'm fit for life, right? It doesn't work that way. I got to go back and I got to go back, and I get better every time I do it. Same thing happens with my money. I check my money on a daily basis. You don't have to be as much of a money nerd as I am to have a good, healthy relationship with your money, but you can certainly go ahead and checking in on your money once a week to see where it's going, tracking your budget, keeping yourself accountable, and making sure you're maximizing it with these tools like the high yield online savings, CDs, investment accounts, so that you really get your money's worth.
I love it, Stephanie. We've talked about a lot this morning. Where can we go to get some more information, including these tips that we talked about?
Yes, so it is Financial Literacy Month. I know we talked about how important financial literacy is. So you can head to this portal at banking.barclaysus.com. Again, that's banking.barclaysus.com, and go to the resources tab. There's a lot of tools, articles, information about how to manage these money goals, how to get the most from your money, and how to prioritize when you have a lot of money goals at once.
Okay, Stephanie O'Connell Rodriguez, we really appreciate the conversation this morning. I think we helped a lot of people with this and just thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks.
I hope so. Thank you, Andrew.
Day 2 of sunshine, but windy conditions across the Mid-South. In fact, winds are going to gust up to 30 miles per hour, especially between, say, noon and about 2 p.m. So be aware of that. Hang on to your hat this afternoon. But again, temperatures will be rising towards 70 degrees. In fact, we'll look for those temperatures hitting 70 between 3 and 4 o'clock with all that sunshine today. Check out afternoon highs in West Tennessee, mid to upper 60s, so a little bit cooler here. 67 in Ripley, 67 Alamo, 67 in Bolivar. In the low 70s across North Mississippi, maybe even some mid 70s over toward Clarksdale with full sunshine, and eastern Arkansas around 70 degrees in wind, 71 in Forest City, and 71 degrees in Helena. Let's talk about our next warm front. It's going to come into the picture as we go into Thursday. Before then, we'll just be high and dry as high pressure rolls across the Mid-South. But this warm front could bring a couple of waves of rain, maybe some thunder. Nothing severe expected out of this. But new data this morning actually showing some clouds and some rain possible by Thursday afternoon. So this may be the beginning of some of those showers and maybe some heavier downpours as well. And some of that will continue off and on as we go into Friday morning and Friday afternoon, especially along and north of I-40. We'll get some breaks here and there. It's not going to rain the entire weekend, but certainly Friday night into Saturday morning, we could see some showers. We'll get some breaks again in the afternoon on Saturday. And then on Sunday, again, it doesn't look like a washout by any means. It's just going to be scattered shower chances through the weekend. So we'll call it a 40 to 60% chance. Many of you will not see as much rain as others. Some of you will have to keep that poncho handy at Beale Street Music Fest just in case. But again, I'm not forecasting a washout by any means. We'll keep you posted on the Action News 5 First Alert weather app. There could be some changes to the timing or intensity of rain and certainly the placement of it. So check back as we get more data in, especially by, I'd say by Thursday, we'll have a really good idea about Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But temperatures will be in the low to mid 70s, lows at night and rising into the 60s. It's going to be quite warm at night and near 80 again as we head toward the weekend with off and on rain chances. And this wet pattern return could continue somewhat into next week.
Okay, have you planned everything out for the summer? Because so many people have, and guess what? The numbers are showing that international travel bookings right now are up some 200%, more than 200%. It's a crazy number. People not only want to travel, they want to go international. They want to see the world. Let's bring in Megan Cooper with AAA to talk more about this number. An extraordinary number, but I have to say, Megan, my family and I this past spring break, we went to Costa Rica, and it was fabulous. Our producer, Amanda Hansen's got an amazing honeymoon plan internationally. I mean, I can totally get it. People are just ready to go. What are some of the reasons?
So people are more comfortable with traveling. We've seen that trend over the last couple of years, but people are ready to go. They're ready to get out and see new places. And, we're seeing that reflected in our travel bookings. So we're up 200% on international travel bookings compared to last year. The biggest increase we've seen is in hotel bookings. That's up over 300% compared to last year. So people are comfortable, they want to get out, and they just want to see the world.
I totally get it. That is so true in the people that I interact with a lot. So let's talk about, I guess, a priority list. What are some of the guidelines? Since we probably know, with thousands of people watching us right now, we are either going international or we know a friend that's going international. What are the ways to really kind of set that list, that checklist for everybody?
Right. So one of the first things that you want to do is prioritize your passport. So if you have a trip planned or you're thinking about traveling internationally and you either don't have a passport or your passport is close to expiring, go ahead and get that taken care of as soon as possible. We are seeing a little bit of a longer wait time on some of those passports. In some cases, maybe 7 to 9 weeks. And you need this to travel internationally. So first things first, if you don't have your passport taken care of and secured away, go ahead and do that right now.
Very cool. What about when it comes to packing and, my biggest fear was that, our flight's going to get canceled and we're going to be, up a creek, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Right. So unfortunately, lost luggage, delayed flights, those are all things that we have to navigate now and always have when we're traveling. So if you're traveling with other people, with a family, with a spouse, with a friend, when you're packing, maybe try to spread clothing and those items that you think that you're going to need across multiple suitcases. That way you don't have one person that has absolutely nothing while another suitcase might have made it and one person has, everything that they need. When I personally travel, I try to keep everything in a carry-on and try not to check baggage. So if at all possible, if you don't have to check that baggage, maybe try to fit everything into a carry-on. If you are checking that baggage, maybe just go ahead and put some extra identification in there. So maybe take out a big sheet of paper and write your information on it, just in case that luggage tag is lost or something happens. You want a way to get that luggage back to you if it is lost or misplaced.
You are a rarity, Megan. The women in my family, they all have to check luggage. Like I've even mentioned that. Like, hey, why don't we carry on? It'd make it better. They're like, no, what are you, crazy? We have to check luggage. So hats off to you. I'm even more impressed by you with that response.
It's taken years of practice, I will say.
I bet. That's the other fear, though, that the luggage is going to get lost. I mean, is there any way, obviously, carry on is the best way. Is there any other way to maybe mark your luggage to make sure that it doesn't get lost? Or is there something else that people can do?
Just make sure that you're checking that baggage early. Make sure that you're giving yourself plenty of time to check it in. Be mindful of how you're planning your flights. So if at all possible, try to book those early morning flights. Those have a less likelihood of being delayed. And then take a look at what destinations you're traveling through. Is it a nonstop flight? Obviously, with a nonstop flight, that's less places that your baggage has to go. So limit those in between destinations. And if at all possible, if you can't avoid those, give yourself plenty of time at those different stops. And sometimes we just can't avoid losing our luggage. Sometimes the inevitable happens, and you're that unlucky person. So that is one instance where travel insurance can really come in handy. And travel insurance does cover some of those costs of delayed flights as well as lost baggage fees.
Help me maneuver travel insurance for a second here, because I know travel insurance is a big question mark for a lot of people when they travel internationally. There's a train of thought that says, well, the travel insurance doesn't cover certain issues that are more likely to happen, so why even get it? And then there's another one that says, no, you need to get travel insurance and get the highest amount, or maybe you should get it for just specific things. Tell me where you stand, where AAA stands when it comes to travel insurance.
So with travel insurance, we always advise for people to purchase this, especially if you're traveling internationally. You're likely spending a lot of money. So we want you to protect that investment. If anything happens, if you get sick, if you can't go on that vacation, if something happens while you're on that vacation, we want you to be able to get that investment back if you at all possibly can. So with travel insurance, there are different options. So depending on what you're booking, how you're traveling, it really can be beneficial. So with those different types of travel insurance, of course, some things are covered, some things are not covered. And I think it ultimately comes down to that personal choice and how comfortable with risk that you are. But just personally, and from AAA, if you're making that investment and traveling, you really want to protect that so you're not losing out on money if something were to happen on that trip. And that's also where a travel advisor comes in very handy, because they can explain to you, what travel insurance would look like for your trip, how much you need, what that would cost. And a lot of times it's really not that expensive to add on that travel insurance policy to your trip.
Good deal. I appreciate you explaining that. Anything else you want to mention that you feel is important for some of the people, some of our viewers, thousands of which join us each and every morning, when they're traveling internationally?
I think the biggest thing this year is planning ahead. We're expecting things to be very busy. I've already heard reports this morning that we're expecting things to get even busier this summer. So if you haven't booked that international travel yet, go ahead and do that as soon as possible, especially if you're traveling this summer. But planning ahead, flexibility is key. If you are in the early planning phases of, planning an international trip, some of those ways that you can save money are being flexible, maybe, traveling in the off season, maybe traveling during the week versus on the weekend. But the biggest thing I think for travelers this year is start to plan early and book that trip early. With the demand and the interest that we've seen so far this year, that's likely to continue throughout the rest of the year. So that sweet spot of getting the trip that you want at the price that you want really is going to come from planning ahead and booking early.
Megan Cooper, who only carries on her luggage on those international flights. Megan, I really appreciate you and all that you do for us here at the Digital Desk, informing our public about the do's and don'ts when it comes to so many different things, including international travel. Thanks very much. All right, the city of Memphis will make a statement on where mayoral candidates must live during today's Memphis City Council meeting. Let me show you some video here. Or as a matter of fact, we have a story here, because during a court hearing on the matter, City Attorney Jennifer Sink formally accepted a 5-year residency requirement effective this year. Action News 5's Stephanie Douglas has more.
On behalf of the city, by the election commission, she hired Mr. Myers to do so. He gave his opinion. She accepted and adopted that opinion and authorized him to send it to the election commission.
3 mayoral
campaigns are in jeopardy after city officials formally accepted the legal opinion on a 5-year residency requirement. Monday, in Shelby County Chancery Court, attorneys representing Floyd Bonner and Van Turner argued that the city's formal acceptance changes their legal strategy.
I am happy to litigate against the city of Memphis. I'm happy to have them take a chair up here and argue that their own ordinance, 4346, is invalid.
As a part of the hearing, Chancellor Jenkins added motions followed by Bonner and Turner to add the city of Memphis to the case. Jenkins also granted the plaintiff's request to maintain their mayoral position during the court process.
It's showtime. I mean, we like the fight. We look forward to it.
While attorneys for Bonner and Turner are fighting to keep their clients in the 2023 mayoral race, a motion to intervene was filed by another candidate. Mayoral hopeful J.W. Gibson is asking the opinion be enforced. That opinion also elicited a tweet from candidate Michelle McKissick, who said in part, quote, "I am glad the city of Memphis government is standing up for Memphians and is acknowledging that the 5-year residency requirement is the law," end quote.
All right, so the trial's been delayed until May 18th for the next hearing. Attorneys for the city, Bonner and Turner, calling for additional witnesses. Let's talk now about the Tennessee Department of Education Commissioner Penny Schwinn. She's stepping down at the end of the school year. Tennessee Governor Bill Lee made the announcement yesterday. She has served more than 4 years. Governor Lee has already appointed Lizette Gonzalez Reynolds as the new commissioner effective July 1st. Tennessee Governor Bill Lee also says a special session on gun legislation will likely take place after July 4th. The timeline comes after lawmakers sped up to finish their annual session last month. For weeks, they were constantly going back and forth on whether or not to take up new gun legislation. There was a plan offered by Governor Lee after the shooting at Covington School. The legislation and the lawmakers did bring up and pass a school enforcement bill that means that there are more school resource officers armed on campus, be it public or private, and school doors must be locked during school hours, and schools that are built after July must have bulletproof windows and doors. All right, a critical week for the economy in the U.S. as both Wall Street and the Americans, Wall Street and Americans look to the Federal Reserve for some clarity. Cole Higgins has a closer look in this morning's Consumer Watch.
Weighing another potential interest rate hike amid mixed inflation data and growing banking turmoil as another bank fails. The Federal Reserve is meeting this week to decide next steps to tame stubborn inflation.
They need to get that down to their target, which is 2%. And the way to do that is to raise rates.
So what does the Fed's decision this Wednesday mean for your wallet? Some analysts expect the central bank to raise rates a 10th consecutive time, this time by a quarter point. If that happens, expect higher borrowing costs from car loans to mortgages.
If we got a personal loan, you're going to see your rate go up. A home equity line of credit, you'll see your rate go up. And of course, if you need to borrow money for anything like a new car.
Meanwhile, there's also the possibility that the Fed could pause its aggressive action to cool down the overheated economy. Experts say if that's the route the Fed takes, it could be a good opportunity for consumers who have been sidelined by rising interest rates.
This is definitely going to be treated by a lot of would-be home buyers as a sign that maybe now is the time to start that home hunt again.
No matter what Fed Chairman Jerome Powell announces this week, the decision will give us a clear indication about the Fed's plans for the rest of the year. So if you're planning to make major purchases in 2023, like buying a car or a home, this week's announcement could give you guidance about what you can expect in terms of borrowing costs. For Consumer Watch, I'm Cole Higgins.
Middle Tennessee has some of the highest home prices in the South. It's making it hard for people who plan to move there. One family in Alabama spoke with our sister station in Nashville, WSMV, it said it would take a miracle for them to move to the volunteer state. They want to be closer to their kids and grandkids, and they're trying to move to Middle Tennessee, but on average, buying a home in Tennessee in the Nashville area is going to cost you about $400,000. That's on average about $100,000 more than the median price in Alabama, where they currently live.
We aren't looking for anything outlandish. We just need a regular house.
And they say they've even considered Kentucky for their move. According to the home buying site Zillow, home values have jumped up nearly 7% in the past year. Memphis to LAX nonstop. New service getting ready to take off at Memphis International. Spirit Airlines launching a daily nonstop flight between Memphis and Los Angeles. It begins June 7th. A one-way ticket. Get this. $89 from Memphis to LA. Well, airport leaders say they hope the flight makes it more convenient for travelers to explore both the Mid-South and the West Coast. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. If you have kids, maybe a good time to just kind of check in with them, make sure they're doing okay. Could go a long way. Youth suicides account for 15% of all suicides. They've been on the rise since the early 2000s. If your child is struggling with their mental health, it's so important to reach out.
There is somebody out there for you. There's somebody that is willing to help. You are worthy of love. You are wanted here. You belong here.
Parents can ask their pediatrician for more resources. It's also important to talk with your child's school counselor or nurse. U.S. COVID-19 public health emergency officially ends this month. That means free COVID tests are not guaranteed after May 11th if you want one. There are still ways to take advantage of the benefit. Pharmacies and other retailers have home tests. Costs may be covered up front or reimbursed by insurance plans. So certainly stuff to consider there.
All right, an evening with Groucho. I don't know if you heard, it's coming to the Halloran Center May 6th. Dubbed nothing short of masterful by the Chicago Tribune, award-winning actor Frank Ferrante brings his acclaimed stage portrayal of the legendary comedian right here to Memphis. And we got a treat today because we have Frank here on the digital desk with us this morning. Hey, Frank, how you doing?
Wonderful. Thank you. Appreciate your time. Hello to everyone.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on the show. We'd love to be able to kind of get a preview of some of the great performances that come out to the Halloran Center. I'm familiar with Groucho Marx, and just from looking at the video, it's quite the portrayal. Tell us a little bit about the show and what people can expect May 6th.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. It's a comedy with music, and whether you know Groucho or not is incidental. It's a show that I've done for over 35 years around the world, in New York and London and in Bartlett many years ago. But it's a lot of it's improv and it's storytelling and songs, and it's all centered around this great character of Groucho Marx, who, in my opinion, was the greatest comedian the country's produced. It's very fun and very fast moving and really fun for all ages. I've enjoyed making new generations of fans around this humor.
Yeah, it's great stuff. It looks like it's a very entertaining show. And like you said, people that aren't familiar even with Groucho can come out and have a good time, get to know this legendary comedian. And I know you were saying that you've been doing this for decades, doing this show. I know you mentioned coming to Bartlett. That's actually my hometown. How did you stumble upon really just embodying this character and really making this, I mean, something that has been long lasting? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. When I was about 10 years old, I saw a Marx Brothers movie, black and white film. I was a kid in a small town in California, and it was the day at the races. And on the screen, on my TV set, were these three crazy, wild men. Groucho with the cigar and the mustache, and the wisecracks, and the brother Harpo, who was silent and played the harp, and Chico, who played the piano and had an Italian accent. And they were just wreaking havoc, and it was exhilarating. And I never laughed that hard in my life. And so I went into my local library and started researching everything about the Marx Brothers and comedy. And that just continued to evolve. And I studied theater. And when I was 22 years old, I graduated from school, and I was cast by Groucho Marx's son to portray Groucho Marx. from age 15 to 85 in a show. And so that's what happened. It was a great honor. So I was in New York and London performing as Groucho. But to get to your question, there was just something so wild and free. And Groucho's such a great physical comedian and verbal comedian. And he's irreverent, and he does things and says things we could only dream about doing. And as a shy kid, I found him so exciting. And that's what I try to do in the show, is to remind people of how exciting he was as a comedian, physically and verbally, all those great lines and scenes. But my favorite part really is the improv. A third of the show is improvised and audience interactive. Every show is different, and I take great joy in still performing it. I've done over 3,000 performances worldwide. Never played downtown, right in Memphis. So that's the Orpheum, the Halloran, is one of those theaters that the Marx Brothers would have played back in the day 100 years ago. So I'm excited to be in Memphis.
Yeah, I always love to hear the backstory when it comes to how people kind of get into these roles and things like that. And I thought it was interesting, too, you talking about being shy. And probably for you, it was a way for you to kind of like get behind a character and be able to maybe embody something that you typically wouldn't because of being introverted in that way. And I love the fact that there is so much improv, too, because like you said, every show is going to be different, right?
Absolutely. And that's something that grew over time, to tell you the truth. When I first did the show in school, it was pretty straight. I did the songs and I did stories, and the stories are wonderful. Like I said, you don't have to know anything about Groucho because his life is interesting. So he's this great American life. He's a survivor who made good. But slowly I started like doing, and someone would cough or come in late and I'd make a joke and I'd get huge laughs. And I thought, oh, this is what's working. And Groucho Marx used to do that in movies like on stage in Animal Crackers and Coconuts. And he had a TV show called You Bet Your Life for 14 years, from the late 40s through early 60s. Welcome, You Bet Your Life. Say the secret word and divide an extra $100. It's a common way, something you see every day. And so he would improvise with contestants on this comedy quiz show. And that's what was funny. He was remarkable. He was probably the greatest wit the country produced. And so I started improvising more and more, and some of the set material, some of the songs I'd cut out in lieu of the improv, or I'd get rid of some stories, because that's what audiences like, because it's happening right then and there. It's right there, right in front of people, and they know they're getting something no one else is getting. That's fun. And I surprise myself sometimes. I have no idea what's going to happen from night to night, nor does my piano player, Gerald Sternbach, who's also flying in from Los Angeles. He's played for Carol Burnett. He's played for Mel Brooks. So I got this great support musically. But the improv is exciting. I recently became friendly with Bobcat Goldthwait, the comedian who was best friends with Robin Williams. And he paid me the best compliment. And Bobcat said to me, "You remind me of Robin," which was like, Robin Williams was one of my heroes, just like Groucho Marx is. So that came over time, but it's like anything. It's the more you do, you hope the better you get. So what audiences will get in Memphis is the culmination of about 38 years of developing the show. I do other things, acting and directing, but this show has been a constant in my life. And it always delights me to see the response of people of all ages and backgrounds, as if they never experienced this type of improv and crowd work, they call it.
Yeah, and to me, improv is such a gift. I mean, and the fact you have a great, I know you were talking about the pianist that is on the show. I mean, they're able to pivot with you and they can kind of read your moves and what you're going to do. But I mean, improv like that is a gift, and to be able to get that audience reaction and to kind of keep the rhythm going, I mean, that's really awesome. And I like the fact that it's a different show, and it's always something, it keeps it new and exciting for you as well. And so I know the show, it's May 6th, and we want to get people out there. I know tickets are on sale right now. Any other last things you want to mention about the show, what people can expect when they come out?
Well, thank you. They should expect the unexpected. And if you love theater, if you love live comedy, if you love stand-up, if you love storytelling, this is the right show. And if you want to see a show that's been around for a while, from Australia to London throughout, I played over 500 cities. This is a fun show to go. It's great for a date, believe it or not. and it's also fun for families. So thank you.
Well, Frank, it's been a true pleasure having you here on the Digital Desk. And while you're in Memphis, by the way, I want to ask you, is there obviously you've been to Bartlett before, anything you're wanting to do while you're in town, or any favorite spots or any places you want to make sure to hit up?
You're going to have to tell me, but for me, it's barbecue, barbecue, barbecue.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's an unlimited amount of places, and all of them are just delicious depending on what type of dry rib, wet ribs, brisket. I mean,
Right.
You can't go wrong with any place in town. So we look forward to having you May 6th, and I know it's going to be a great show. You have a great morning, all right?
Thank you. Take care, and thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Hey, let's one more time talk about the details here. So May 6th, tickets just $37.50. Great price. I mean, something for the whole family. And like Frank mentioned, a great date night. So head over to orpheum-memphis.com and get those tickets now, because I know they're going to go fast.
Day 2 of sunshine, but windy conditions across the Mid-South. In fact, winds are going to gust up to 30 miles per hour, especially between, say, noon and about 2 p.m. So be aware of that. Hang on to your hat this afternoon. But again, temperatures will be rising towards 70 degrees. In fact, we'll look for those temperatures hitting 70 between 3 and 4 o'clock with all that sunshine today. Check out afternoon highs in West Tennessee, mid to upper 60s, so a little bit cooler here. 67 in Ripley, 67 Alamo, 67 in Bolivar. In the low 70s across North Mississippi, maybe even some mid 70s over toward Clarksdale with full sunshine, and eastern Arkansas around 70 degrees in Wynne, 71 in Forest City, and 71 degrees in Helena. Let's talk about our next warm front. It's going to come into the picture as we go into Thursday. Before then, we'll just be high and dry as high pressure rolls across the Mid-South. But this warm front could bring a couple of waves of rain, maybe some thunder. Nothing severe expected out of this. But new data this morning actually showing some clouds and some rain possible by Thursday afternoon. So this may be the beginning of some of those showers and maybe some heavier downpours as well. And some of that will continue off and on as we go into Friday morning and Friday afternoon, especially along and north of I-40. We'll get some breaks here and there. It's not going to rain the entire weekend, but certainly Friday night into Saturday morning, we could see some showers. We'll get some breaks again in the afternoon on Saturday. And then on Sunday, again, it doesn't look like a washout by any means. It's just going to be scattered shower chances through the weekend. So we'll call it a 40 to 60% chance. Many of you will not see as much rain as others. Some of you will have to keep that poncho handy at Beale Street Music Fest just in case. But again, I'm not forecasting a washout by any means. We'll keep you posted on the Action News 5 First Alert weather app. There could be some changes to the timing or intensity of rain and certainly the placement of it. So check back as we get more data in, especially I'd say by Thursday, we'll have a really good idea about Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But temperatures will be in the low to mid 70s, lows at night and rising into the 60s. It's going to be quite warm at night and near 80 again as we head toward the weekend with off and on rain chances. And this wet pattern could continue somewhat into next week.
Okay, Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. You just heard it is going to be amazing today. Beautiful weather, beautiful conditions in Memphis. 70 as the high today with so much sunshine. Look at all that sun on our Midtown High 5 camera. Look at all this sunshine downtown. Gorgeous day. And you know who's always sunny and bright? That's Talisa Franklin, our friend at WAVN The Trend. Talisa Franklin, you are so positive. You are such a gift to us. How are you on this Tuesday?
I am amazing. See, I got my arms out, baby, because it's that summertime weather today. I'm so happy. Yes.
I love it. I love it, Talisa. And I know that you're always busy. You're always keeping us up to date on what's going on and the positive things that are happening around the Bluff City. So what's up?
Absolutely. You know what? I can't do nothing but positivity, right? I wake up in the morning excited. I go to bed excited. I wake up again the next day and I'm excited about what we are doing right here in our amazing city called Memphis. There's no place I would rather live than in Memphis, Tennessee. And I'm going to tell you all, there's so many great things happening. This Thursday, y'all, want to invite you all to the CeCe Winans. Oh my gosh, she's so inspirational. The Believe for It. She's live in concert in Memphis this Thursday, y'all. So all roads lead out to Hope. It's going to be an amazing event. She's such a jewel to the body of Christ, and she speaks so much positive light in her music. So I'm knowing that if you're having a challenging week, you need to get in that. You need to get in that arena and say, I'm gonna believe God for whatever I know that He told me to do. So this Thursday, y'all, Believe for It, live in concert. The CeCe Winans, the pretty woman herself. Get there. And because it's going to be a whole weekend of great things, celebrating people, just enjoying life. And then y'all know on Friday, come on, get ready, get the tacos and get the chimichangas and all that stuff ready, because it's going to be a live party, right? At Overton Square. Cinco de Mayo, baby. We're going to celebrate. I am so excited to celebrate this amazing event, this amazing movement, this amazing holiday with our Hispanic brothers and sisters that's right here in the Bluff City. So I need everybody, because y'all know we are one Memphis, right? We one big Memphis at that. So let's celebrate Cinco de Mayo on this Friday, and let's just love on people. If you've seen somebody from the Hispanic culture, I challenge you to give them a big old hug this weekend and just give them some love, right? And let's celebrate Cinco de Mayo on this Friday. And then, y'all, I want to say something that is so special to me. This Sunday, I am so proud of the amazing young lady named by the name of Cynthia Denise. She has an amazing vision of calling the influential 20 Black Tie Gala Awards, right? I am excited that she chose little old me, y'all, to be the keynote speaker for this event. And I'm very honored because Cynthia has been really a really champion here in our city, doing great things and trying to do wonderful events with her Mademoiselle Vince brand. And I'm just excited to support her, to lend my little voice to the people at the Influential 20. And then I just want to shout out these people that is being honored, right? Because I believe it is important for us to honor, especially these amazing 20 people that's here in Memphis that's doing absolutely incredible things. Angelina Parham, Tamika Porter, Princess Woodard, Erica Lee, Ashley Williams, Willie Jackson III, Stephanie Times, Dr. Tonise Randolph, Patrick Newman, Crystal Yarbrough, Christian Harris, Dr. Nicholas Manning, the Miller Girls, Edward and Jamie Musgrove, Dr. Tia Celeste Turner, Dr. Nevada Jackson, Raymond Brown, Vaquita Todd Barnes, oh my God, Antonio Huntsman, Jamie Taylor, and these people are truly our change agents that I love dearly, as they're receiving the Lifetime Achievement Awards. Christy Chandler, y'all know Christy Chandler and YAG, Young Actors Guild, that's doing so many great things for young people. Paula Michelle Martin, she's a veteran and she came back to Memphis to serve. And my brother, my twin, my friend, Pastor Ricky D. Floyd, the proud pastor of Pursuit of God, she's honoring all these great people. And I'm just excited to be the keynote speaker. My dear brother in radio, Michael Adrian Davis, is over on 88.5. He's going to be the host. You know, y'all, we're going to have a good time, right? You got an amazing host. Y'all got to, I'm going to do a little keynote speaking. I'm going to try to speak some positivity in the people's lives to continue for people to continue what they're doing. He's doing great things in Memphis. And Andrew, that's what Memphis is about. Let's shine the light on the great things. Listen, we know bad things are happening. They're happening all around the world. But I just challenge every Memphian, everybody that's right here in our beautiful Bluff City. Instead of saying something negative about our city, let's say something bright about our city. Let's say something positive about our city, because it's what you think of our city is going to make everybody else say, I never thought about it that way. So I need everybody today and the days to come, I need you to think positive, speak positive, all about the great Bluff City, Memphis. And y'all know Memphis in May kicks off this weekend. Party. Let's get it, y'all. Let's get it.
Absolutely. I could not agree with you more, Talisa Franklin. It sounds amazing. That event, Sunday night, Black Tie Awards Gala, sounds great. I mean, Talisa Franklin and Michael Adrian Davis, oh my gosh. That is going to be a lot of fun and very entertaining for the crowd. No question about it. What's going on the show today, Talisa?
On the show today, we are talking about vaccinations in our communities. Listen, I know many people say, well, the pandemic is over. We don't have to worry about COVID. Listen, COVID is still out here. And I would suggest that you take that vaccination. Listen, I took it, all of them, right? And so we're going to be talking about the numbers and the stats of how important it is to be vaccinated. Many of our seniors are still our vulnerable population. Let's make sure as we're going to see grandma and granddad, right, that we're fully vaccinated, because we're out and about and they're in the house, and we want to make sure that we continue to shine the light and tell the numbers. Shout out to Dr. Michelle over at the health department that is always doing an amazing job of giving us the real truth of what's going on in our city health-wise. And so we're just going to continue to shine the light and tell people about vaccinations here in Shelby County. You still can get them. They still don't cost you a thing but your time, and it may just save your life or somebody else you love.
Talisa, we love you, we appreciate you, and always enjoy talking with you. And I love how you highlight so many great things and great people happening across Memphis and the Mid-South. Thank you, my sister. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, let's just talk about this new law that is on the governor's desk right now. It would change the requirements for keeping a dog outside. Lawmakers say the new guidelines are much more specific about outdoor shelters. Let me pull this up here so you can see specifically what we're talking about. Now shelters in Tennessee must have a roof and be enclosed on all sides with an opening large enough for the dog to fit through, and then a shelter would also have to be able to withstand severe weather. It also needs clean bedding, must have temperature controlled, issues with shade in the summer, extra bedding in the winter. Again, this goes into effect in the state of Tennessee July 1st. All right, there is a study out there that shows that most Americans do not eat enough fruits and vegetables each day to support their health, and that might stem from serving size guidelines that are way too vague. I mean, do you know how much a serving size is for fruits and vegetables? An analysis from Harvard indicates that a total of 5 servings a day of fruits and vegetables offer the strongest health benefits. So let's talk about what exactly that means every day in this Best Life Report. Watch. Just what does 5 servings of fruit look like?
At least 5 a week of each.
Or what about 5 servings of veggies?
Right now, we have a recommendation for people to consume at least 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, which equivalates to about 2 fruits and 3 vegetables. For fruits, that's 1 cup of fresh fruits or 1 cup of 100% juice, or a half a cup of dried fruits. For vegetables, it's 1 cup of fresh or cooked vegetables and a half a cup of legumes, which are the beans, peas, and lentils, or 1 cup of 100% vegetable juice.
Compared with people who only had 2 servings a day, researchers found that people who consumed 5 a day had a 13% lower risk of death from any cause, a 12% lower risk of death from heart disease or stroke, and a 10% lower risk of death from cancer. Also, a 35% lower risk of death from respiratory disease.
For individuals who have a tough time eating foods because of their schedule, they can do things such as blended smoothies or even having a little bit of fruit juice to help meet their fruit and vegetable requirements for the day.
Aside from adding plenty of fresh options to your diet, frozen fruits and veggies, as well as canned varieties also count. And with canned options, just make sure to opt for those canned in water and not in sugar or salt. Dried unsweetened fruit can also serve as a great snack and salad topper option. With ways to live your best life, I'm Andrew Douglas, Action News 5. The Whitehaven community still mourning the loss of a beloved community leader and teacher. Whitehaven High School's band director Andre Newsom died over the weekend during a road trip with the band to Atlanta. Action News 5's Victoria Poirier has more.
For over 15 years, Andre Newsom changed the lives of students in his band room at Whitehaven High School. Newsom was an accomplished musician, Whitehaven alumni, graduate of Tennessee State University and a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated.
He was a giant among men, to say the least. Like, he impacted so many lives, including my own.
DeMontario Lee is a middle school band director and a 2015 graduate of Whitehaven High School. Lee recalls joining the class as a student, but left as a family member. 8 years later, he says Mr. Newsome is one of the reasons he became a band director, telling his students often that he sees a lot of his former band director in himself.
He always told everyone in the band, you know, you can be whatever you want to be in life, just don't be a teacher. He like, just do not be a teacher. And I was one of the ones that literally did the exact opposite. I know if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be where I am today.
MSCS intern superintendent Tony Williams says, quote, he was overjoyed to teach at his alma mater and share his knowledge and network with students. His music, like his life, was bold and vibrant, and his memory will remain the same in our hearts.
He was just the life of the party everywhere. He was such a big light to everybody. Even if you was having a bad day, he found a way to make you smile, even if he was going through something bad himself, but you just never knew.
In Memphis, Victoria Poirier, Action News 5.
An award at Hutchinson School in East Memphis is being created in honor of Memphis mom and beloved teacher Eliza Fletcher. She was abducted and killed last year while on a morning run. The school's athletic department created the Liza Welford Fletcher No. 5 Award to further her legacy. She wore No. 5 during her time at Hutchinson. Mariel Rowland was named this year's recipient, meaning in the fall she will be the only athlete across all sports to wear the No. 5 for Hutchinson. In Arkansas now, Hunter Biden, the son of President Joe Biden, will have to turn over his finances to an Independence County court. Ruling was made by an Independence County judge in Batesville yesterday. He was found to be the father of an Independence County child, and now he wants his child support lowered. Biden and the child's mother, Luden Roberts, were ordered to turn over financial documents. Both have a time frame that they will be forced to follow to get information shared between both parties. Biden's appearance at the courthouse drew a crowd.
I'm here for the biggest event that I've seen in Batesville, Arkansas, and I'm really excited to see Hunter Biden.
It's kind of a historical thing to be taking place here in little Batesville, Arkansas, so I thought I'd just kind of come down and be a witness for whatever may or may not happen today.
Pre-trial is set for May 23rd. Deposition in Little Rock will be June 13th through the 16th. The trial set for July 24th.
This time of year is when people really like to spend a lot of time outside, whether that's camping, hiking, you name it. People like to enjoy this nice weather. But of course, you always have to worry about risks, things like Lyme disease and ticks this time of year. So joining me now to talk a little bit more about this is Dr. Jeff Mullins. He is a primary care physician with Methodist Medical Group. Dr. Mullins, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well. It's a beautiful day outside.
I know. Let's just take another live look and just take it in and enjoy this, because I hate that I'm inside stuck at work right now, but I'm looking forward to a really nice weekend. I'm probably planning to be out in nature. So, of course, the focus this morning is talking about ticks, Lyme disease. I guess to just start things off, let's just talk about, a lot of people hear about Lyme disease, but what exactly is it?
Lyme disease is a bacterial infection that's carried by ticks. Predominantly the Burgdorferi tick, or what some people call the deer tick. It's a pretty common disease, actually. It's a lot more common than people think. It's just not as common down here in the South as it is up in the Northeast and the upper Midwest. There's a lot of discrepancy. If you go online and do a little research, a lot of discrepancy in the number of cases that you see every year. And it is a reportable disease, but unfortunately, I think the method of reporting to the CDC is not very good. The CDC says that there's about 35,000 cases a year, which is significant. But researchers have found, by looking through insurance records of where people have actually been treated for Lyme disease, the number is closer to over 400,000 cases a year, excuse me. And so there's this big discrepancy in the number of cases. Fortunately for us in the Mid-South, the vast majority, over 90% of the cases, are going to be in New England and the upper Midwest. But it does occur in the South, and it is a concern this time of the year, as ticks are a real problem for those who garden or those who live in the country, and those who camp and go fishing and hunting and these kind of things. You're going to encounter ticks this year. It's going to be a pretty bad tick year. We've already starting to see people come into the office with tick bites.
You know, it's surprising to me because you say it's not as common down here. I would think with so many outdoor opportunities and things like that, that it maybe would be a little bit more common. But I guess the big thing, people want to know, how do I protect myself? Because we like to spend time outside when it's nice. What is the best thing that you can do to protect yourself?
Well, wearing proper clothing when you're actually going to be in contact with tall weeds, brush, being out in the woods, it's not as much of a problem if you're walking across someone's manicured lawn or hanging out by the pool as it's going to be if, like I said, you're tramping through the woods or on a trail. Ticks like to they like to get on weeds and bushes that are near where people or animals will actually walk by and brush them. And I've actually seen them on the edge of a weed with their arms up like this, just waiting for something to come in contact with something. So the best thing to do is to wear proper clothing, and by proper clothing, if you're going to be in a tick infested area, one of the things you may want to consider doing is wearing long pants and long sleeve shirt. Now, it gets really hot in the summer and the peak of tick season, and that's kind of a tough thing to do. And you got to be careful about overheating as well. So if you're going to be in an area where you may contact ticks and you're going to wear long sleeves, long pants to do things like gardening, you need to be out there for early in the morning doing it before it gets too hot. But if you're going to be out, you're just a regular person out tramping in the woods on a beautiful summer day, you probably want to make sure that you're using a insect repellent that contains DEET, and you want to make sure that you spray on your exposed skin areas, not only to protect you from ticks, of course, but from things like chiggers and mosquitoes. Mosquitoes can carry things like West Nile fever and encephalitis, so you don't want to be getting bit by mosquitoes either. But the same insect repellent will work on ticks as well. We would take our socks and pull them over the end of our pants legs so nothing could crawl up into them. Honestly, it looks kind of goofy, but it does work to prevent you from getting ticks on you. But using DEET around the cuffs of your pants and around your waist and on your arms, it will be pretty protective for repelling ticks. And that's what I recommend is a good insect repellent.
Some good advice. I know that I've been that one myself, that when I've gone out hiking, I wear, kind of some lightweight hiking pants, and then I do pull the socks over because it works. I think it's a good tip,
It does work.
Yeah. And so I'm going to use the trick with a DEET too as well, because obviously mosquitoes are bad enough here, and if that's an extra layer to protect me from ticks, then I'm saying count me in. I will ask, though, are there usually common places where people will find ticks? Because when you go out and you're hiking or you're camping and whatnot, are there certain places on your body that you need to make sure that you're checking when you come back inside? What advice would you have for that?
Yeah, first of all, if you've been outside and you've been in the woods or you've been doing some gardening where you're concerned that you may have come in contact with ticks, the first thing you want to do when you come inside is you want to go into the bathroom, take off your clothes, okay? And one of the things I advise is don't take off your clothes and throw them into the dirty clothes hamper, okay? Take off your clothes and shake them over your bathtub, because there can be ticks in your clothing. And if they're not on you, but they're in your clothing, guess what they're going to do when you put them in the hamper? They're going to crawl out and wait to get on you some other time. And so shake your clothing out over the bathtub. You'll see anything that falls out, and you actually just wash it down the drain if that occurs. And then get in the mirror and do an inspection of your body. someone who's hair challenged like me doesn't have this issue, but there are many, many, many people that have very thick hair. And if it gets into your scalp and starts to attach there, you may not even know it until it's been on you for quite some time. Early detection of a tick attaching to you is important. Some experts believe that a tick has to be on you for about 24 hours before you can actually be infected with a tick-borne disease like Lyme disease. So getting the tick off of you in a prompt manner is very important. While we're talking about that, what do you do if you find a tick? Okay, well, there's lots of old country kind of things that people do. Paint the tick with nail polish so it suffocates and backs out. Touching it, lighting a match, blowing it out, and touching to the back of the tick. I don't recommend any of these things because if you disturb the tick to that degree, it can actually regurgitate into your body, and what might have not been a disease-causing exposure may then become one. What you want to do is you want to take a pair of tweezers, and you want to get as close to the head as you can, clamp down on the head, and as gently as possible, but pull back very slowly. Don't jerk it out. Pull back very slowly. The tick will release, and then you need to dispose of the tick. There's a few ways you can do that. They're very difficult to crush. They have a very, very hard shell. You can do it, but it's very, very hard to do. We live out in the country, and we have a septic system. So what I do is I flush it down the toilet because once it goes down the toilet, it's not coming out anywhere and getting anybody else. The other thing you probably want to be considerate of this time of year are your pets, okay? They have lots of products now that repel ticks and fleas and these kind of things off your animals, but it's not a bad idea if your dog's been out rolling around the yard and that kind of stuff, when they come in, just to give them a quick brush down. And because if the tick gets on the animal and it tries to implant and this medication it's on causes the tick to be repelled, it'll drop off the dog in your home, and then you have a problem. So kind of giving Rover a quick once over with a brush to knock off any ticks that may have attached, may have climbed onto your dog is not a bad idea either. Another thing you can do, I think in family medicine, we're real big in prevention. And one of the things you can do to prevent this from becoming a problem is treat your yard. And there are several good products. Some of them are granular, some of them are sprays. You want to be careful if you have small children. You want to read labels about how long after you apply something to your yard before you can let your pets come in contact with it. But they have some very good products that are very good at killing things like ticks, so that your yard won't be a problem. And I highly recommend doing that this time of year as well.
Good advice. And I know you were talking about, I think a lot of people's first instinct when they have a tick on them is try to get it off of them as quickly as possible. So that was some good advice with the tweezers and making sure that it's a slow process. I'm wondering though, I've heard about people doing this too, if they do find a tick on them and they remove it, to maybe put it in a Ziploc bag in case, if there's a way to identify if maybe it would be one of those ticks that would have Lyme disease. Is that something that people should think about doing if they're concerned about it? Yes or no?
Not really. I mean, the vast majority of tick bites do not result in any disease, and that we probably should talk about that as well. When do you get concerned if you have had a tick on you? What do you need to do after you remove it? First thing, let's talk about something that's very common, and it's a skin reaction to the proteins that are in the saliva of the tick. These are not proteins that belong in your body. Your body sometimes is very adept at recognizing this and can react to it quite vigorously. It's not uncommon that some hours after you've removed a tick, you'll look down there and there'll be a red spot and you go, oh my gosh, it's giving me something. Not really. That's probably more of an allergic reaction, a tissue reaction to what we call arthropod proteins that are in the saliva of the tick. So what you want to do is just watch that area. And so it's not a bad idea after you remove the tick to put a little dab of antibiotic ointment on there, but that won't prevent that kind of reaction because the reaction is not an infection. The reaction is almost like an allergic reaction. With Lyme disease, the classic presentation is that red spot will develop kind of a target lesion, looks like a bullseye. That should be a big concern if you develop a bullseye type of lesion where you've removed a tick. But the more also a classic presentation is what we call erythema migrans, which in Latin just means migrating redness. And so from the red spot that's there initially, you see this red area just spreading out from it. It typically doesn't hurt, and it typically doesn't itch. That should be a concern. All tick-borne illnesses have some common features, rash being one of them. There's different rashes, for example, for Rocky Mountain spotted fever than them for Lyme disease, but a lot of the tick-borne illnesses will have a rash, fever, headache, and joint pains. And as a clinician, we look for at least 3 out of 4 of those as a measure of concern. So if you have someone that got a tick bite, they may not even have a rash. They may have removed a tick, and then maybe a week later, they're feeling bad. They're feeling run down. They're having a headache. They're having some joint pains, and they're having low-grade fever. Well, guess what? We still got COVID around, and those can be signs of COVID as well. So always keep in mind, hey, it could be COVID. Do a home test to make sure. But contact your physician or your nurse practitioner and say, look, I got bit by a tick. I didn't really have much of a reaction to it initially, but now I'm not feeling good. I'm running a little bit of a fever, and I'm kind of achy, and I have kind of a headache. Those are all warning signs to a clinician that you may have encountered a tick-borne illness. Testing for Lyme is a little sketchy. About 50% of cases will not be detected early. They'll be detected late. So this clinical suspicion based on symptoms is very important. So if you have these kind of symptoms, and again, just to reiterate, rash, fever, headache, joint pains, 3 out of the 4 is enough to really have a strong clinical suspicion. But as usual, if in doubt, contact your healthcare provider and talk to them about what's happened and maybe come in and be checked out.
Some good advice for sure. And obviously the big thing that we're trying to do today is know how to prevent this. How do you keep from getting Lyme disease? But if someone does in fact get Lyme disease, what kind of impact does that have? What does it do to the body?
Well, there's 2 considerations. One, if you develop symptoms, classic symptoms, and you're treated, you really shouldn't have any long-term, what we call sequela, things that happen to you long-term from Lyme. But the problem is where Lyme goes untreated. You can imagine if you got bit by a tick and you didn't break out in a rash, you kind of got a little headachy, a little tired, maybe some joint pains, a little low-grade fever, you might think you're coming down with something. And then if those symptoms kind of clear and you never got treatment, you're going to forget about it. And then weeks or months later, Lyme can really cause problems with significant joint inflammation, cardiovascular issues can occur. So you don't want to get to a point where that happens. Again, prevention, not getting bit by a tick at all is obviously the best thing to do. But if you do get bit by a tick, watch out for those symptoms. And if in doubt, see your healthcare provider. Now, some patients freak out when they get bit by a tick. They're so frightened because they've heard horrible things about Lyme disease, and untreated Lyme disease can be a horrible disease, but it's actually quite uncommon. Okay, so the chances are you won't get Lyme disease if you get a tick. But if you develop any of those symptoms, just seek attention promptly and you should be fine. But long-term problems from having untreated Lyme disease can be quite significant. One of the things that's discouraging to me as a clinician is there are some providers in the country that have kind of made a cottage industry as labeling people as having chronic Lyme disease based on the fact that they have antibodies to the Lyme organism. Well, having antibodies doesn't necessarily confirm infection. And there is absolutely no clinical data that these people need to be on long-term antibiotics for the rest of their lives. Chances are, even if you're detected somewhat late and you've developed some of these more significant symptoms, you can still be treated with infection. The weird thing about Lyme disease is in people who aren't treated promptly, even if they're treated successfully later and there's no indication that the organism is still in their body, it seems to kind of set up this resonance in the body where they continue to have symptoms sometimes for years, and they can become disabled with it. So again, prevention, not getting Lyme disease in the first place, is step number one. But we're going to get ticks. Okay, I get them, and I'm fully aware of how to avoid them, and I'll still get one now and then. The best thing to do is to be aware of what to watch out for and to seek medical attention promptly if you develop any of these symptoms of a tick-borne illness.
And that's why this conversation is so important this morning. But while we have you here, Dr. Mullins, any other kind of summer safety tips you want to make sure that we hit on?
Well, yes, like I said, protecting yourself from mosquitoes, from things like West Nile virus and encephalitis is important. Obviously, most people get bit by a mosquito, don't get sick, but this is an avoidable thing with the kind of insect repellents that we have. So I do that. The biggest problem in the Mid-South this time of year, as we get into the really hot days, it's heat exhaustion and heat stroke. So you want to be really careful, particularly if you already have health problems or you're older. You want to be careful about getting overheated, but young people can get dangerously overheated as well, outside playing hard in the sun and these kind of things. Take breaks, get in the shade, hydrate very well. It's generally not necessary for most of us to drink electrolyte replacement type of beverages. If we just keep well hydrated, most of us get more than enough salt and potassium in our diet. We don't really have to worry about drinking the electrolyte replacement solutions. But protecting against dehydration, heat exhaustion, and God forbid heat stroke, which kills people in the Mid-South every year, we really need to be cautious with that. Also, while we're along those lines, there are people in our community who don't have air conditioning. There are elderly people in our community who don't have air conditioning. If you know some of these people, if they're your neighbors, your friends, your relatives, as we get into the hot part of the year, please check on them and make sure that they're okay. And offer them a place to stay if you can when it gets really hot if they don't have air conditioning. And of course, the city and the county will open up shelters during some of these times as well. But when you compare the yearly toll from things like ticks in Shelby County, mosquitoes in Shelby County, and heat in Shelby County, heat beats them all.
Yeah, definitely important to make sure you're staying hydrated, because a lot of times that kind of thing can sneak up on you and you don't realize
Absolutely.
how dehydrated you are. Yeah. So, Dr. Mullins, I appreciate you taking some time this morning to share this information with our viewers. It was really good to talk to you, and you have a great morning, all right?
Thank you. You too.
Okay, let's talk about April being Second Chance Month. And in the U.S., 2 out of 3 people who have been to prison are arrested again, and 50% of them end up back in prison. Let's talk to Brandeis Leverett. He is a program manager for Persevere. It's based out of Tennessee. Brandeis, first tell me, what is Persevere, and tell me what some of the things that you encounter each and every day there. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? Yes, Persevere is a national nonprofit. We actually operate out of 6 states, and we're looking to move into more states, but our biggest footprint is right here in Tennessee. So yes, we work with individuals who we like to call have been justice impacted or justice involved. And yes, we will teach coding and software development. Our participants have an opportunity within 6 months to a year to become certified full stack web developers. All of our programs are absolutely free. They come along with the equipment that's necessary. We offer wraparound services. We have support for transportation. Here in West Tennessee, we actually have transitional housing. So for individuals who we begin working with within the prison walls, once they're on a process of release, we have options and opportunities to continue to serve and help them make a better life for themselves, developing those skills to code.
That's fantastic. I understand you guys have only been around just a few short years since 2019. You're already in 6 states. I mean, it's growing pretty substantially at a really fast pace. I remember we talked to Stacy last time around. Tell me how you got involved.
Yeah, so yes, we're in 6 states, and since 2019, we've served about 800 participants. And then for me personally, I have a history and a career in education. And I tell people all the time, I was impacted on the other side of the wall. My father spent time in prison, and I watched the process of him being released and the struggle that he had to find gainful employment. So when this opportunity came, it was a no-brainer for me to jump on board the Persevere team. And I've really enjoyed the work that we do here.
You mentioned West Tennessee. It is significant in terms of where you are and helping people and how popular this program is. Can you just tell me a little more details of some of the outreach that you're doing in the West Tennessee, Memphis area?
Yeah, here in West Tennessee, again, we have our 2 programs. One is called Tech Alliance, and another one is called Families First. Tech Alliance actually serves the entire state. And then our Families First program, which is supported by the Department of Human Services, serves West Tennessee and all of its counties here in West Tennessee. And that program in particular not only works with adults, but it also works with students. It also works with young people between the ages of 9 and 18. Again, those services are provided for free. We offer career readiness, life skills support, and we have certified mental health counselors on staff who support the work that we do. And then when it comes to partners, we partner with a ton of organizations here in Shelby County and then across the state. So we got Knowledge Quest and Memphis Athletic Ministries, and we also work with the American Job Center, almost hand in hand in some of the work that we do. And workforce development boards throughout the state support the work that we do. And of course, I can't help but to mention the Tennessee Department of Corrections.
So April is Second Chance Month. What do you want people, we have thousands of people that watch us on the digital desk here each and every morning. What do you want people to do with that knowledge that April is Second Chance Month?
Yeah, with April being Second Chance Month, and again, so many individuals are impacted by justice in this manner. I think one of the major things we want to do is we want to kind of beat back the stigmatism that comes along with that. When you get a chance to learn the stories of the individuals that have been justice impacted or justice involved, you can learn that, literally they made a bad choice at one moment in their life. And we believe that that shouldn't be a death sentence. That shouldn't keep them from opportunity after serving time and serving whatever that time, that should be, a barrier for the entire of their lives. We don't believe that should be the case. So in doing that, we also want continue to work with different partners. One of the things I didn't mention, but we have what we call technology employment specialists who go out and they work with employers to get employers involved in the process of what we're doing, to commit to say, hey, we're going to take on some of your graduates and participants to give them a chance. So that's ultimately what we would love for individuals to do, is to give individuals who've been justice impacted and justice involved a chance.
This morning, we talked about how crime is way up in Memphis and Shelby County this year already. A lot of it's juvenile crime. When you see stats like that, I know that I believe your organization helps juveniles. What happens with your kind of organization when there is an uptick in crime and there's a lot of juvenile crime? Is there any, I know you guys are focused on Second Chance, but is there any other kind of outreach or anything else that you guys deal with when it comes to this big spike in crime we're having, specifically juveniles?
Absolutely. There's a branch in belief in what we do about First Chance, right? To help individuals who have not yet been justice involved, but may be in environments in which that is all too common. So yes, we work with organizations throughout the county and state to offer young people an opportunity to be exposed to coding, to game development. We work with the individuals, a partner of ours is Epic Games. Those are the folks who are responsible for creating games like Fortnite. So we're able to work with them and introduce game development to our young people. Because again, for young people, it's about scratching that interest, beyond just traditional academics and education. And I think one of the biggest things that's really important, again, is that we can work with the entire family, moms, dads, aunts, uncles, and then young people within those families can come together and find a common knowledge and even a common language through coding and game development. So those are things that we do.
Where can people go for more information, Brandeis?
Yeah, so our website is perseverenow.org, or just go to Google and type in Persevere and you will find us. And then this week, in honor of Second Chance Month, we're working with the individuals at Center for Employment Opportunities, and we're going to have a resource fair with tons of employers right here in the city who are going to be at the Lester Community Center on Saturday morning, starting at 10 a.m. And we will have that resource fair there. There are going to be a ton of organizations and employers that are ready to interview and give people a chance.
Okay, Brandeis Leverett with Persevere. We really appreciate your time. Good luck with everything this month, throughout the year, and God bless you guys. You guys are doing some amazing work. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, in Mississippi, some school districts say the money they got from the state is significantly less than expected. Districts got a different amount each year based on how much the state legislative funds MAPE. That's the school funding formula, among other factors. Schools have three groupings of money this year: the teacher pay, raise money, and part of the $100 million extra the legislation approved. Still, some superintendents say the math doesn't add up.
That's the first year in recent history, at least, that we've had so many different pots of money paying for the same operational expenses. So I have a feeling, without seeing any definitive numbers, that that's probably part of the questions that are being raised today.
State Department of Education plans to send out clarification to the districts. The department believes the confusion is rooted in the fact that the base student cost was lowered when the teacher pay raise was kept separate from the MAPE formula this session. Mississippians still recovering from the March 24th tornadoes will soon get big help from FEMA. The agency says it'll provide transportable temporary housing units for those people forced out from the storms. Panola County, Mississippi, among the counties eligible for assistance. Nonprofit Samaritan's Purse also offering its mobile home replacement program to residents whose homes were destroyed by the tornadoes. You can find out how to apply on our website, actionnews5.com. And you can still help with cleanup efforts and recovery efforts from those people recovering from the storm. Just text the word storm to the number on your screen, 51555, or visit gray.tv/relief in order to donate. Writers in Hollywood getting ready to walk the picket lines. More than 11,000 members of the Writers Guild of America set to go on strike today for the first time since 2007. They officially called for a strike. The union did after it failed to reach an agreement with the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers. Strike means production of any TV shows could come to a halt immediately. The start of new seasons may be delayed as well. Saving for your child's future, the education, that can be daunting, right? A 529 plan investment account, certainly a good place to start. but finding extra money, that can be tricky. Investigative reporter and consumer investigator Rachel DePompa explores one way to get creative when it comes to college savings. Take a look.
A 529 plan is a way families can invest money to save for their child's future, but paychecks only go so far, right? It's hard to find extra money to save. Robert Farrington, the founder of The College Investor, likes to remind families money for college doesn't have to come from your own pocket. There's a lot of ways to put money into a 529 plan, and one way is by gifting.
Where this is where other people in your family or friends can gift into your child's 529 plan. And we're seeing this trend take off where families, instead of hosting birthday parties with, 20 kids and 20 gifts, they're saying, in lieu of gifts, please contribute to our child's 529 plan.
Farrington says most state 529 plans now let you create a little link with your child's name that you can send to others so they can donate directly into the plan. And 36 states offer tax deductions and tax credits for contributing to a 529 plan. You might get a little tax break for saving for your children's education as well. With this Watching Your Wallet, I'm Rachel DePompa.
Day 2 of sunshine, but windy conditions across the Mid-South. In fact, winds are going to gust up to 30 miles per hour, especially between, say, noon and about 2 p.m. So be aware of that. Hang on to your hat this afternoon. But again, temperatures will be rising towards 70 degrees. In fact, we'll look for those temperatures hitting 70 between 3 and 4 o'clock with all that sunshine today. Check out afternoon highs in West Tennessee, mid to upper 60s, so a little bit cooler here. 67 in Ripley, 67 Alamo, 67 in Bolivar. In the low 70s across North Mississippi, maybe even some mid 70s over toward Clarksdale with full sunshine, and eastern Arkansas around 70 degrees in Wynne, 71 in Forest City, and 71 degrees in Helena. Let's talk about our next warm front. It's going to come into the picture as we go into Thursday. Before then, we'll just be high and dry as high pressure rolls across the Mid-South. But this warm front could bring a couple of waves of rain, maybe some thunder. Nothing severe expected out of this. But new data this morning actually showing some clouds and some rain possible by Thursday afternoon. So this may be the beginning of some of those showers and maybe some heavier downpours as well. And some of that will continue off and on as we go into Friday morning and Friday afternoon, especially along and north of I-40. We'll get some breaks here and there. It's not going to rain the entire weekend, but certainly Friday night into Saturday morning, we could see some showers. We'll get some breaks again in the afternoon on Saturday. And then on Sunday, again, it doesn't look like a washout by any means. It's just going to be scattered shower chances through the weekend. So we'll call it a 40 to 60% chance. Many of you will not see as much rain as others. Some of you will have to keep that poncho handy at Beale Street Music Fest just in case. But again, I'm not forecasting a washout by any means. We'll keep you posted on the Action News 5 First Alert weather app. There could be some changes to the timing or intensity of rain and certainly the placement of it. So check back as we get more data in, especially by, I'd say by Thursday, we'll have a really good idea about Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But temperatures will be in the low to mid 70s, lows at night and rising into the 60s. It's going to be quite warm at night and near 80 again as we head toward the weekend with off and on rain chances. And this wet pattern could continue somewhat into next week.
Okay, you've heard, I'm sure, about what happened outside Huey's in East Memphis off Poplar Sunday night. Well, we got some new information from the Memphis Police Department. I want you to take a look here at what I've pulled up. This is a picture that police are looking for. Want to read what the Memphis Police Department sent to us a short time ago. And much of this stuff you already know. This happened 7:13 Sunday evening. Off-duty Memphis police officer, 4800 block of Poplar Avenue, observed several suspects breaking into a Dodge Charger in the parking lot. The officer approached. The suspects identified, the suspects there, one of them fired shots at the officer. The officer then returned fire. One of the suspects arrived at St. Francis Hospital with a gunshot wound, transferred to Regional 1. He was treated and released before being connected to the scene here outside of Huey's. The officer was unhurt. So May 1st, that was yesterday, Investigators determined that the male that arrived at St. Francis and was transferred to Regional 1 was 19-year-old Chase Harris. Harris, one of the individuals captured on video. A warrant has been issued for him. He has been charged with theft of property, auto burglary, aggravated assault, reckless endangerment with a deadly weapon. Anyone with information should call Crime Stoppers 901-528-CASH. You will be given a personal ID number. Your identification will remain completely anonymous. You can also text Crime Stoppers and also be anonymous as well. So again, here is who they are looking for. 19-year-old Chase Harris. There is a picture of Chase Harris there. So again, this is from the Memphis Police Department a short time ago. If you want some more information, you can certainly get it on actionnews5.com. Want to show you this, switching gears here. Look at this beautiful baby. Memphis Zoo welcoming a new member to their family. This is Birch. He's a 61-pound bongo native to the forests of Central and Western Africa. He was born last Wednesday. Zookeepers say that they chose the name because of wild bongos eat a diet of leaves, roots, grass, and bark. All right, Taylor Swift will take the stage in Nashville Stadium this weekend multiple times. In fact, 3 shows there that the Swifties can check out. The exhibit, there's an exhibit at the Country Music Hall of Fame. It'll show the various costumes that Taylor Swift has worn throughout her career. It's included in the museum's general admission there. It runs through the end of the month. And certainly fans are ready for the big show.
Got myself a quarter zip. I'm obsessed with it. And then I had to get my mom a blue crew neck. And then I got my professor one because I skipped class, and this is me making up for it.
Yeah, so all 3 performances are sold out in Nashville. All right, today the Stax Museum of American Soul Music holding a party to celebrate its 20th anniversary. Yes, the museum first opened May 2nd, 2003. So in 20 years, Stax has been named one of the top museums in North America, receiving the Tennessee Governor's Arts Award, being formally added to the U.S. Civil Rights Trail, remains the world's only museum dedicated to the legacy of Stax Records, American Sound, and all-American soul music. Stax's 20th birthday celebration take place at the Museum Studio A. The event will feature tours, live music, guest speakers. It begins at 1 o'clock this afternoon. All right, have you been to Go Ape at Shelby Farms? I've been multiple times with family members, with friends, and we love it. Well, get ready to love this report here by Kim Clark as she goes on the zip line and adventure park at Shelby Farms.
If you can handle heights and heart-stopping rope courses in the trees, then Go Ape Zip Line and Adventure Park on North Pine Lake Drive at Shelby Farms is definitely for you.
It's pretty awesome.
Lauren Hansel is the assistant site manager, and although I'm no fan of heights, she helped me conquer my fears.
There's language right after it. They're marked. Make sure it stays even on the back.
Then alert an instructor.
And you can go ahead and put that here.
I began with the Treetop Adventure, a 2 to 3 hour long trek featuring tree-to-tree crossings 36 feet high.
Ready? I don't know if I am. Here it goes.
And zip lines across a serene pine lake.
We have 5 zip lines that go back and forth across the lake right there. And it's one of the most amazing experiences that you can have out here.
I began with the big one.
You have to be at least 10 years old and 4'7" to complete that course.
Which is why many opt for a somewhat easier introduction to Go Ape. Go Ape first came to Shelby Farms back in 2015, bringing outdoor fun for everyone. Like this treetop journey, which is supposed to be a beginner's rope course.
In 2021, though, we did open up Treetop Journey. That is the smaller course right here behind me. It is for all ages, and it's a set 1-hour activity to go through as many times within an hour as you can.
If you're more in favor of keeping your feet on the ground, the adventure doesn't stop.
We offer axe throwing that opened in 2020, and that's a 1-hour time period for you to throw axes for an hour straight. We opened up our mini golf course last year in 2022. That is 18 holes just through the park trails of mini golf. Some people have said this is one of the most challenging mini golf courses they've ever done. And last year we also opened up an outdoor escape room called Forest Escape, and that's for 1 hour. You're going to solve some puzzles, and you have that 1 hour to escape, essentially.
Whether you're looking for fun up in the air or firmly on the ground, Go Ape Zipline and Adventure Park amplifies the opportunities that await inside one of the largest urban parks in the country. Just one more reason we love calling this place home.
Go Ape is all about living life adventurously, so we want people to come out here and conquer their fears or just have a great time with their friends and family. We just are all about living life adventurously, really.
At Shelby Farms Park, I'm Kim Clark.
Okay, May is Mental Health Month. How is your mental health these days? There's always some form of news out there that addresses mental health, especially coming out of the pandemic here, 3 years since the pandemic began. We're always focused a lot more on mental health. In fact, Mental Health America, which is the nation's leading community-based nonprofit, has dedicated to addressing the needs of those living with mental illness and is encouraging everyone to consider how the world around them affects their mental health, from their neighbors to genetics. Let's talk more about this with the president and CEO of Mental Health America. Schroeder Stribling is joining us on the digital desk. I appreciate you joining us and telling us what apparently you have some data when it comes to mental health in 2022. Really interested in hearing some of your data. Good morning.
Good morning, and thanks for having me, and thanks for highlighting this month. So you're correct, May is Mental Health Month. This is a tradition that was started by Mental Health America in 1949, and we look at this as a really great annual reminder and opportunity to check in on our mental health and the mental health and well-being of our loved ones, our friends, our neighbors, and our communities. And in conjunction with the start of Mental Health Month, we have released a report today that talks about the data from our National Prevention and Screening Program, which was launched in 2014. So about 6.3 million people came to take a self-test and check in on their mental health in 2022. And the results that we got were concerning, especially with regard to youth. They're consistent with what we've seen before, but they really tell us a great deal about who's in the most distress, and they draw our attention especially to folks who are 24 years and younger.
Schroeder, I have 2 older teenagers, and they constantly tell me a couple of things. They tell me that social media and the phone devices, smartphones, whatever, tablets, they seem to be, when it comes to mental health issues and things that distract or hurt their mental health, those 2 issues, social media and screens or devices like an iPhone or any kind of smartphone, really hurt. Based upon your research and whether it's this survey and others, is that what you're seeing?
You are absolutely right that there's a lot of conversation about what is the role of social media in the youth mental health crisis. And no doubt there is a correlation. And so I think your kids are right, and they're insightful to know that the social media and technology is having an effect on their mental health. One of the things that we do know is that about as I mentioned, about 3/4 of those 6.3 million screeners were youth. And the most popular screen that people take is for depression. Anxiety comes next. And about half of the youth who took a screen for depression reported that they were having frequent thoughts of suicide. So that gives us a sense of the degree of the problem. And then when you ask people, what are the reasons for their distress? The three most popular answers given, and remember this is largely from young people, are concerns about body image, self-image, and relationships. And when we think about social media, certainly those issues of body image and self-image and relationships are all impacted by social media, which is mediating a lot of those relationships and which is giving youth a lot of sometimes distressing feedback about their self-image or their self-worth or their body image. So I think it is definitely one of the contributing factors and something for us to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a major contributing factor for sure. It's really interesting to hear some of that data coming from your screening data, Mental Health America. I understand that housing stability and home environment also plays a pretty large part of our mental health role. Explain that to me.
Yes, so each year we choose a theme for Mental Health Month. And this year, our theme is Look Around and Look Within. So in addition to this being a reminder for folks to check in on their own mental health, it's a reminder to think about how the natural and built environments around us are affecting our mental health. Now, there are some things that we have greater control over than others. Housing stability, sometimes we have greater control over that, but safety in the home, health in the home, where we can make positive changes, we want to encourage people to do that. So as we do every year for Mental Health Month, we've published a toolkit, and this year's toolkit is about looking around and looking within, helps people understand how they can get to that screening, take a self-test, check in on their own mental health, but also what they can do with the natural environment around them. And that could be as simple as changing the setup of the room that you live in or the apartment where you are, or spending time outside. And outside doesn't mean necessarily that you have to get to a national park. It might just mean that you're able to spend a little bit of outdoor time. For instance, I grew up in a small apartment in New York City, and there was a little tiny porch that we had, but it allowed for some outdoor time. So that's important to people's mental health. And those are the kind of tips and tricks that you'll find in our toolkit for this year.
You know, Schroeder, you stole my question there, because I was talking about Mother Nature with my kids, and they always love, whether it's a bike ride, going to a park. In Memphis, we have one of the largest urban parks in America. It's Shelby Farms Park. But our surrounding areas, there's tons of parks where people go and they can just walk and connect with nature and get, I guess, a clearer mind, just kind of just get away from the hustle and bustle of whether they're connected on a device or in classrooms or various settings, work, what have you. Having that Mother Nature connection can, I would think, really clear the mind a lot. Is that what you're seeing in some of your research? And what else are you seeing, ways that people can find maybe some good habits?
Well, you've really put your finger on something very important. Outside time and getting outdoors is enormously important to our mental health. There's lots of research that tells us. And once again, this does not have to be a national park. Just any outdoor time is good for folks. In fact, this May, we are partnered up with LL Bean for a challenge about outdoor time, and we're hoping to get people to log 500,000 hours of time spent outdoors during May. Could be any kind of outdoors, and you can find at our website, mhanational.org, you can find more information about our LL Bean challenge to spend time outdoors. Pardon me. So that's enormously important. The other thing that I would recommend is that we have a new book out in addition to our May Mental Health Toolkit. And our book is called Where to Start. And the title really says it all. It's about how to start thinking about mental health and mental health in your own life, how to be aware of what supports you best in your own mental health, and how to attend to our well-being, as well as checking in on that of our loved ones and family members and others.
You and I are on the same wavelength here, because my question now is, and I don't want to give the book away, but if there were, let's say, 3 bullet points about where people can begin, and we've already mentioned, clearing your mind, going on a walk or somewhere, maybe in a park or something like that. If you were to give people maybe 3 bullet points on how to start bettering your mental health, and we have thousands of people that watch us each and every morning here, where would you start with those 3 bullet points?
Well, the first, I think, and the most important is to get informed, is to get information. So just like we would about our bodily and our physical health, we need information so that we can take care of our mental health. And we need to know how we can check in on our mental health. So you can find a lot of information about mental health in general at our website, mhanational.org, or in the book. But the other thing that you can find is a link to our National Prevention and Screening Program. And that's the program where the free and anonymous platform that I mentioned before, where people can take any one of 11 validated tests, self-tests, to get more insight about how they're doing and to learn a little bit about their own mental health. So I think those are the most important things to start with. And then the last thing I would mention is to intervene or take action early. If you have signs of distress for yourself, if you're noticing changes in your mood, your appetite, your sleeping, your behavior that are concerning to you, get help early. So starting might be about taking a mental health test or screening, might also be about talking to a trusted loved one or sharing with someone, a therapist perhaps, how you're feeling, to see about getting help. So getting our help early. And if you do find yourself in crisis, very important to know that we have a new resource. It's about a year old now, 988. For anyone who doesn't know about this new number, you can call or text 988 for a mental health crisis. And the goal is to have a mental health response to a mental health crisis. So that's another important resource that we like to get out during this Awareness Month.
Schroeder Stribling with Mental Health Awareness, or Mental Health America, the president and CEO. Really appreciate our conversation, and I think we really helped people kind of address this issue and help them if they need help out there, and just really kind of being in the know when it comes to what to do and some of the problems. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, take a look at the latest edition of Memphis Magazine. FedEx at 50, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. That is Raj Subramaniam. We talked to John Sparks, the author of that article. That is in the edition today and this month. Also is some focus on some eats and some drinks and some local places to go. And joining me now to talk more about this article, Dining Out, for example, Sam Chichi, the author of it. He's joining us on the digital desk to talk about this month's edition of Memphis Magazine. Good to see you again, Sam, as always. Tell me about this Hook Point Brewery tap room. I'm familiar with Hook Point. I believe there's an affiliation with veterans. And I think they brew the beer out in Collierville, but this new tap room's in East Memphis. Am I right so far?
That's right. Yeah, the founder, Mike Sadler, he's a former Navy pilot. Kind of made his career out of that, and is still flying today for FedEx. But yeah, the name Flat Hat for their kind of signature beer brand comes from the term for unauthorized low altitude flying. So, you can see those kind of veteran Navy fingerprints all over the really cool stuff. But yeah, Mike has been operating the Flat Hat brand since 2014, actually, but most of their beer has been available from their distribution center out in Collierville. And, during the pandemic, he kind of started looking around for places he could set up a tap room, because that had always been part of his goal to, create this space kind of in the heart of the city where people could come and, try more of their beers. They could try more things, maybe serve some food as well. So they opened this place up in Brookhaven Circle just a couple months ago. And, I think East Memphis has really taken a liking to it. I hopped out there a couple months ago, and, it was a really great environment, a very nice open space, so many different beers to try, a lot of really cool bar snacks. If you're a beer fan, you got to try it out. I know Flat Hat hasn't been readily available to a lot of people, or they might just have missed it. So this is a great opportunity to just try a new beer and add something to your beer collection.
Yeah, you had the tough assignment of going out there and going to tap room and trying the beers and trying the food. You said it's only been open a short time. Brookhaven Circle has become such a trendy spot there, with Hog and Hominy and several others. It sounds like a great spot for a tap room as well. Tell me a little more about the atmosphere. Is it a big place inside? Is it inside and out?
It's inside and out. It was still kind of wintry when I went over, so the patio was closed. But yeah, they've got a really spacious interior. They've got a really long, very nice bar you can sit at if you want to just hang out by yourself and watch the game. But they've got a separate, really large room, which has some pretty big tables. I think they've got a large community table in there alongside a bunch of other, smaller ones. So it's a great place to go if you want to just, have a beer for fun after work or something, or if you just want to, even take the family out or grab a large group of friends and, sit at that table, maybe meet some other Memphians and strike up a conversation, or, they've got plenty of shareable snacks in there too, which is definitely something I want to talk about. First of all, I think it's really exciting that a brewery or a tap room is, kind of serving its own food. You don't normally see that. It's a bit of a challenge sometimes, but Mike told me that was always one of his first goals too. He's like, we got to serve our own food, and I think they've got a really diverse range of stuff. I didn't get to try their brunch, but they had these really good chicken and waffle dishes that I'm gonna try next time. They got a very cool blueberry compote pancake, which looked fruity and delicious and nice and blue and fluffy. But for my part, I tried a lot of the savory snacks. I think I got to draw attention to the duck wontons. Those were delicious. These little crispy fried triangular flat wontons with, I think, minced duck and a little bit of bacon in there too. It was just an excellent snack to really kick off the whole thing. And, stuff like pretzel bites, that's a classic bar snack. There are just so many different things that I think lend themselves to being the perfect accompaniment to a beer. So, whatever they're doing over there, they really got it down pat. And I think another cool fact is that they use beer in, I think, almost all of their recipes. I know the Afterburner bites, these little spicy chicken bites, they use their red ale in there, and that gives it a little bit of an extra kick to it too. And I just think it's a really cool way to incorporate all the cool stuff they're trying into their kind of innovative menu.
Yeah, I love it. I like the beer can too. You got a really cool beer can there next to Mike and his wife there. It looks like a naval aviator. I mean, you're supporting a business started by a U.S. veteran, a Navy veteran here, in addition to the drink, also the food. You can learn more about Hook Point Brewery's tap room in the pages of the Memphis Magazine here, this month's edition. That's what we're looking at right now. I also want to go to an article, Sam, you also wrote about getting some craft cocktails at Supper Club on 2nd. I went there a few months ago when it opened, and we had that one really nice table right by the street there, right by the glass. It was really a nice place. It was almost like a private table in a way, and I had the short rib, and it was excellent. They call it the shoddy rib, and it was quite good. Tell me about the cocktails.
You know, I only got to try one, but it was delicious. I watched the bartender Stephanie put that all together. She was so meticulous about her craft. You know, it was like watching an artist at work, just how she layered everything in there. You know, I know a lot of bartenders around town are very talented, but I'm no mixologist myself. But I tried the smash on second, and wow, just all the things going in there. You know, based around cognac, putting all the cool berries. You see, you got the little blueberries on top. There was so much color in there. It's one of those things where you see someone carrying it down the bar, and you're like, oh my goodness, I need to grab one of those. And then, you know, you got the little edible flower garnish on top. I mean, wow, I got to get back there and try the rest of the cocktails. I only got to try this one, and you know, already I'm like, hey, when can they send me back out there again to try some more? And really, the whole place is just so chic. I mean, you have the celebrities and stars portraited around the place. You know, in the picture there, you can see Denzel Washington. You have just plush green velvet chairs. You got the golden light fixtures. I think I described one as like a star bursting or something like that. You just kind of bring that little astral look up there. It's phenomenal. I really don't think there's anything like it downtown, and it's packed all the time. It's so crazy. You know, I see open tables a lot of places. That place is always packed whenever I walk by. It's amazing.
Yeah. 85 South 2nd Street, and it was a good time when I went, and certainly looks like it was a good time when you went. Again, you can read more about it in this month's edition of Memphis Magazine and memphismagazine.com. Sam Chichi, always appreciate the conversations. Keep up the good work and those tough assignments, man.
Of course. Thanks so much.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas here in the Action News 5 digital desk. Life-threatening bleeding injuries. Boy, they can happen anywhere at any time. And they're the leading cause of preventable deaths in this country. In fact, in those critical moments, every second counts. Someone with a severe injury can bleed to death in as little as 3 minutes. Fortunately, these deaths can be prevented with proper bleeding control techniques that are super easy to learn. Let's bring in Dr. Nilda Garcia to talk more about what is considered Stop the Bleed. It's a program out there that she is promoting. Dr. Garcia, I appreciate you being here. Tell us about this program. Good morning to you.
Good morning. So Stop the Bleed program was developed by the American College of Surgeons to empower the public to recognize a patient that's hemorrhaging and to try to help to control the bleeding. This program is very important because we know that a hemorrhaging patient, that if you can stop the bleeding, you can change the outcome of that patient. And the course is a very easy 3 steps that we teach you. One is you call 911. You identify that the patient is hemorrhaging. You put pressure with your hands on. You can pack the wound with a piece of cloth or gauze if indicated, and you can place a tourniquet if indicated. And these 3 simple steps are taught during the course.
Let me ask you this, Dr. Garcia. This focus on Stop the Bleed this month being May 1st, is there some issues when it comes to how people respond to this type of emergency? I mean, has there been research out there to suggest that people don't know what to do and they just kind of panic or go into shock?
So I think that's exactly what happens. People don't know what to do, and they don't do anything. And so this course is trying to educate the public, to empower them to say, you can recognize this and you can do something. And it's very simple. The steps are simple.
Okay, so let's talk about what people can do, the important steps, once again, what people can do to learn to stop the bleeding or bleeding control techniques that they can just remember just off the top of their head.
So the course teaches you to first call 911. Then when you identify the hemorrhaging patient, you apply pressure with your hands to the wound. And then you can pack, if you can, and you have gauze or a piece of clothing, you can pack the wound with those 2 items. And then if indicated, they educate you on how to place a tourniquet if needed.
Okay, yeah, I was looking at some video that you just showed there about ways that people can learn to stop the bleeding. Can you talk about maybe some of those common scenarios, I guess, that, where stop the bleeding techniques can be implemented?
So these accidents can occur anywhere. And that's why it's so important for everyone to learn this, everyone in public, all age groups. They can occur in your home after an accident at home from falling. They can occur after a car accident or after a bicycle accident or a skiing accident. So once you recognize that these accidents can occur anywhere and that you recognize when a patient is actually hemorrhaging and how to control the bleeding, it is so important for the public to learn this because you can and will change the outcome of that patient.
These seem like, common scenarios that you would think most people may encounter sometime in their lives, once, maybe more than once. Tell me how people can get this course and really kind of understand exactly the best techniques in this type of emergency situation.
So the course is available through the American College of Surgeons, and there's a web page, stopthebleed.org/savealife. And you register for the course. It's a 1-hour course. They can be in person or virtual. They are free. And if there's a cost associated, it tends to be minimal. But for the most part, these courses are free at stopthebleed.org/savealife.
Okay, Dr. Nilda Garcia, American College of Surgeons committee member on trauma. We really appreciate you coming on the digital desk to talk about the Stop the Bleeding campaign. Certainly something that's very important. And again, people can go online, Stop the Bleed campaign, and learn more about this. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Day 2 of sunshine, but windy conditions across the Mid-South. In fact, winds are going to gust up to 30 miles per hour, especially between, say, noon and about 2 p.m. So be aware of that. Hang on to your hat this afternoon. But again, temperatures will be rising towards 70 degrees. In fact, we'll look for those temperatures hitting 70 between 3 and 4 o'clock with all that sunshine today. Check out afternoon highs in West Tennessee, mid to upper 60s, so a little bit cooler here. 67 in Ripley, 67 Alamo, 67 in Bolivar. In the low 70s across North Mississippi, maybe even some mid 70s over toward Clarksdale with full sunshine, and eastern Arkansas around 70 degrees in Wynne, 71 in Forest City, and 71 degrees in Helena. Let's talk about our next warm front. It's going to come into the picture as we go into Thursday. Before then, we'll just be high and dry as high pressure rolls across the Mid-South. But this warm front could bring a couple of waves of rain, maybe some thunder, nothing severe expected out of this. But new data this morning actually showing some clouds and some rain possible by Thursday afternoon. So this may be the beginning of some of those showers and maybe some heavier downpours as well. And some of that will continue off and on as we go into Friday morning and Friday afternoon, especially along and north of I-40. We'll get some breaks here and there. It's not going to rain the entire weekend, but certainly Friday night into Saturday morning, we could see some showers. We'll get some breaks again in the afternoon on Saturday. And then on Sunday, again, it doesn't look like a washout by any means. It's just going to be scattered shower chances through the weekend. So we'll call it a 40 to 60% chance. Many of you will not see as much rain as others. Some of you will have to keep that poncho handy at Beale Street Music Fest just in case. But again, I'm not forecasting a washout by any means. We'll keep you posted on the Action News 5 First Alert weather app. There could be some changes to the timing or intensity of rain and certainly the placement of it. So check back as we get more data in, especially by, I'd say by Thursday, we'll have a really good idea about Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But temperatures will be in the low to mid 70s, lows at night and rising into the 60s. It's going to be quite warm at night and near 80 again as we head toward the weekend with off and on rain chances. And this wet pattern could continue somewhat into next week.
All right, let's talk about some of the flooding there along towns and cities and the Mississippi River. Many of those communities continue navigating some of the flood conditions as the river begins cresting. This is from Pleasant Valley, Iowa. You could see there that people are going down streets using boats due to the water levels. National Weather Service says the river's not expected to see many record crests this coming week. Elected leaders in these towns along the river continue to be optimistic due to the improved flood walls and prevention measures in place. Nothing like this is expected to happen in Memphis. All right, the Memphis municipal election is this fall, so people hoping to become the city's next mayor, they're waiting to see if a residency requirement will disqualify them from running. The issue is whether candidates will have to live in the city at least 5 years before running. That's been a part of the city of Memphis code for years. Really hasn't been enforced, though. Today we should get a legal opinion, I should say, from the city attorney at today's Memphis City Council meeting. Lawsuits have been filed by both Shelby County Sheriff Floyd Bonner, NAAC Memphis President Van Turner against the Shelby County Election Commission challenges this requirement. Now, Van Turner argues that the 5-year residency rule hasn't existed since a 1996 ballot referendum was voted on to remove the requirement for both mayoral and city council candidates. Yesterday, in the first of many hearings in this case, City of Memphis acknowledged the residency requirement. Other candidates, J.W. Gibson, a former county commissioner, and Michelle McKissick on the school board, hoping that the city enforces this requirement. Other city leaders aren't on board. Now, the ruling also affects former Memphis Mayor Willie Harrington, who was previously living in the town of Collierville before he moved back to Memphis in 2020. Again, the municipal election will take place October 5th. Candidates can start filing petitions later this month. All right, who's ready for the fastest 2 minutes in sports? Because guess what? That is this weekend. Trainers say they are locked in. If you want to join other folks with the Kentucky Derby, you can. You're in the right place. We have a busy day on Saturday for you. King Charles coronation, followed by the Kentucky Derby on Action News 5. And then after the Kentucky Derby, you can watch the Memphis Showboats in action on WMC TV5. Also want to let you know about the Down Syndrome Association of Memphis and the Mid-South hosting its Get Down and Derby Gala. That's in honor and celebration of the Kentucky Derby. It takes place Saturday, 4 o'clock at the Great Hall in Germantown, just in time to watch the Kentucky Derby with friends and family. Tickets are $75 a person, $6.75 for a table of 10, $35 for self-advocates, people with Down syndrome. You can use see more of this on our website, actionnews5.com. Are you ready to walk this way with Aerosmith? They are saying after 50 years, the band has announced their Peace Out Farewell Tour. It'll feature special guests, the Black Crowes. Drummer Joey Kramer says he will not be joining them on the tour so he can focus on his family and health. There are 40 dates right now in North America that'll kick off September 2nd. The tour does not stop in Memphis. It does go to Nashville January 10th. Tickets go on sale on Friday. If you visit Independence, Missouri, you soon can stay in the same house Elvis Presley stayed in. This is Elvis House, some locals like to call it. Elvis stayed there touring in the late 50s and 60s. Staying at this Airbnb won't be cheap, though. Rent could top at nearly $2,000 a night. You could just go to Graceland, where Elvis stayed permanently, and pay a ticket there, which is around $50. Okay, do you delay deadlines? Perhaps you are a procrastinator. Well, a study out of the University of Chicago found 20% of people do procrastinate. Another study found 48% of people say distraction is the main reason for their procrastination. There is something called body doubling that could be the answer for you. It is the subject of this Best Life report.
I usually procrastinate the things that are really difficult or challenging, and I just kind of do it because I'm scared of failing.
I procrastinate a lot.
If you struggle with procrastination, you're not alone. A new technique called body doubling may cure your productivity killer. A body double is a friend or partner who works with you simultaneously, either in the same room or virtually through video chat platforms. Having someone there with you can help increase productivity by holding you accountable, sometimes referred to as an accountability partner. It's a technique for better productivity. FocusMate, an online community that pairs members with a body double, states that body doubling works using 5 behavioral triggers: task implementation, social pressure, accountability, specific task direction, and activating certain neurotransmitters through behavior. So what should you look for in a body double? Find someone that can be quiet and independent. Their job is not to engage with or distract you, so a good friend would probably not be ideal. $8.8 billion lost. That's according to the Federal Trade Commission, which received more than 2.4 million reports of identity theft, imposter scams, other types of fraud here. Consumer investigator Carice Jackman has advice from the AARP on how you can avoid becoming a scam victim.
From imposter scams to credit card schemes, fraud reports continue to climb across the country. Consumer advocates from the Better Business Bureau and the AARP are hearing from people concerned about scammers targeting their personal information and money.
We serve over 400 people every day who think that they might have been victims of fraud or even have a question about a fraud situation.
That's why Amy Novziger with the AARP says they've recently issued a fraud survival guide that covers common schemes and how to protect yourself from them.
We really want to bring people back to the basics when it comes to fraud and take some proactive steps that they can do for themselves.
The first step is simple. It starts with what you have in your wallet or purse. Novziger says many people still carry personal information that scammers are just waiting to grab.
There are a lot of people who are still carrying their Social Security cards in their wallet. That is a gold mine for a criminal if you lose it or if they steal it. So take your Social Security card out of your wallet.
Novziger says it's also important to protect yourself against identity theft.
A lot of people just still have the comfort level of writing a check, and criminals know that they can steal these, wash it off with a quick little chemical compound, and then rewrite that check for whatever amount they want. Do not put any of these checks in your outgoing mailbox, and really don't even put them in a big blue mailbox. Take them directly to the post office or consider some sort of e-pay.
And then there's the all too common email and social media scams, where fraudsters often pretend to be a legitimate business. Novziger suggests doing a privacy check regularly on any of your social media pages.
What you want to do is not allow anybody to friend request you that basically you don't know or have any connections with. This is a way that a lot of scammers victimize, their targets is through social media. So we need to do what we can to protect our social media pages.
Small but quick fixes in your life to help fraud-proof your world. With this Watching Your Wallet, I'm Carice Jackman.
Day 2 of sunshine, but windy conditions across the Mid-South. In fact, winds are going to gust up to 30 miles per hour, especially between, say, noon and about 2 p.m. So be aware of that. Hang on to your hat this afternoon. But again, temperatures will be rising towards 70 degrees. In fact, we'll look for those temperatures hitting 70 between 3 and 4 o'clock with all that sunshine today. Check out afternoon highs in West Tennessee, mid to upper 60s, so a little bit cooler here. 67 in Ripley, 67 Alamo, 67 in Bolivar. In the low 70s across North Mississippi, maybe even some mid 70s over toward Clarksdale with full sunshine, and eastern Arkansas around 70 degrees in wind, 71 in Forest City and 71 degrees in Helena. Let's talk about our next warm front. It's going to come into the picture as we go into Thursday. Before then, we'll just be high and dry as high pressure rolls across the Mid-South. But this warm front could bring a couple of waves of rain, maybe some thunder. Nothing severe expected out of this. But new data this morning actually showing some clouds and some rain possible by Thursday afternoon. So this may be the beginning of some of those showers and maybe some heavier downpours as well. And some of that will continue off and on as we go into into Friday morning and Friday afternoon, especially along and north of I-40. We'll get some breaks here and there. It's not going to rain the entire weekend, but certainly Friday night into Saturday morning, we could see some showers. We'll get some breaks again in the afternoon on Saturday. And then on Sunday, again, it doesn't look like a washout by any means. It's just going to be scattered shower chances through the weekend. So we'll call it a 40 to 60% chance. Many of you will not see as much rain as others. Some of you will have to keep that poncho handy at Beale Street Music Fest just in case. But again, I'm not forecasting a washout by any means. We'll keep you posted on the Action News 5 First Alert weather app. There could be some changes to the timing or intensity of rain and certainly the placement of it. So check back as we get more data in, especially by, I'd say by Thursday, we'll have a really good idea about Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But temperatures will be in the low to mid 70s, lows at night and rising into the 60s. It's going to be quite warm at night and near 80 again as we head toward the weekend with off and on rain chances. And this wet pattern could continue somewhat into next week.
All right, well, graduation season is upon us, and whether it's high school graduation and maybe wanting to further your education or enter the workforce, or college graduates accepting a new job, financial decisions can be so stressful, and just trying to navigate through that can be very difficult. So joining us to talk a little bit more about it is Ashley Feinstein-Gerstley. She's the author of Financial Adulting, Everything You Need to Know to Be a Financially Confident and Conscious Adult. Ashley, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on.
So I guess the first thing I want to do is just dive right in. Let's talk about maybe what are some of the biggest mistakes or things that these young adults, whether it's 18 into your early 20s, where maybe they're making mistakes financially. What would you say is probably some of the biggest problems or things that they just don't know about?
Yes, I'd say two big things. The first, and I did both of these things, so it's coming from experience, is to wait to save until we have enough money to save. So there's this idea, and how we traditionally view saving is we earn money, we live our lives, we pay everybody else, and then we hope and wait that there will be money left over to save. And in my experience, that just doesn't work for most people. Even when we get a raise, there's still not money. So I would say pay ourselves first, pay yourself first is something that I would highly, highly recommend. And then the other is not having a plan. And I know that budgets get a bad rap. We think they might be restricting, they might limit our fun, but I view them as an act of self-love, because when we have a budget, we have a plan, we have peace of mind, we can build in things that are fun and have no guilt as we spend them, and just have clarity about where our money is going and reach our financial goals. So I would say not having a plan and waiting to save until we make more money are the two biggest mistakes that I see.
And when you talk about saving, is there a certain rule of thumb when you say you want to maybe save back this percentage of the money you're bringing in, or does it just depend on each individual's budget and what kind of money they're bringing in? What advice would you have for that?
Yes, so I would say it does depend. I am not a big fan of having a certain percentage as far as saving and investing and retirement, but I would say first and foremost, you want to have that crisis fund saved up. So that first $1,000, that first 1 month of expenses, and then from there building up to have a fully funded rainy day fund. So in case something happens with an illness or with our job, that we have money to pay for our expenses for 3 months, 6 months, depending on your personal situation.
And this is just a question for me, because I think way back, back in the day, a lot of people would have their checkbook and they would go in, and every time they would write a check, they would go in, they'd balance their checkbook. They had an idea of the money that was coming in, coming out. Do you feel like that now people really aren't using that checkbook and it's harder to maybe keep up with the money you're spending? Do you feel like that?
Yeah, I think technology has done some great things, but it makes it very easy to have no idea where our money is going. Even if you think about checkbooks are a great example, credit cards, we don't feel the pain of what we spent until the bill goes through, swiping our credit card, hopping in and out of a Lyft, we're not even really paying. So I think I'm a huge fan of having what I call money parties, which are time that we set aside to look at what's happened with our money over the last month or the last week. So actually go through and look at those expenses, because it is so easy to lose track of them. And I've had that experience where you see the credit card bill and you say, that wasn't me, but then you go through each and every expense and you realize, these things just add up. So having that time, if we don't look at our expenses, it's just not going to happen. And we need to carve out that time for ourselves.
Do you feel like that generation, you just get out of high school or you're coming out of college, that little group right there, a lot of times they're finally getting out of the house, they're starting to support themselves. Do you think that some of the biggest mistakes start off with credit cards, and maybe every time you go to a store and they say, well, you get 20% off if you apply for a credit card? Do you feel like that this generation can sometimes fall victim to that when it comes to credit cards? What are some of the biggest mistakes?
Yes. So I actually was one of the people who had that happen to me, and I didn't even understand how credit cards worked. I remember by the time I paid my bill, I had so many late fees. And so I do think there's this idea that it actually is something that I wish I knew when I graduated from school, that most people, we don't learn about this. And I'm seeing it more and more being taught in schools, which is wonderful. And I know parents want to be sharing this information with their kids, but they might not feel like they're equipped to do so. And so I do think there's this feeling when we graduate that we're the only ones who don't understand, and there can feel this like taboo of talking about it and asking questions. And what I've found is that most of us don't understand, and we're all learning as we go, and we're learning the hard way. And so I do think that that helps to feel less alone as we navigate this. But then also, yes, to really, I think there's a lot working against us when it comes to personal finance, and that we're not educated about it. There's like with the credit card, there's probably 50 pages of small print that I could have read to understand it. So I would definitely caution to really understand any financial products that we sign up for. Talk to people about it, because if they don't understand and you don't understand, you might be able to find someone else, or to go and figure it out together can feel less lonely as we navigate this.
I remember when I was in college, starting in college, credit card companies, they actually would set up booths on campus, and you would end up getting a credit card, and it would have this incredibly high interest rate, but you weren't educated on what to even look for, what to consider. So I mean, I can see how credit cards can really get people into trouble. I do want to switch gears though. Student loans, when a lot of people rely on student loans to be able to go to school, what kind of advice would you give when people start looking to see how much they need to be borrowing, because they do have to pay that back at some point?
Yes, so when we're going to, there's actually a chapter in the book dedicated to debt. So understanding credit cards, understanding student loans. And I think when we think about financing college, there are a lot of pieces that fund the pie. So there could be grants, there could be financial aid, there could be federal loans, there could be private loans. But at the beginning, when we're trying to figure out how much to take out, ideally we can minimize that pie. And in interviewing some experts on student loans for the book, I found that people actually can negotiate with their universities on what they're able to help them provide. In the worst case, that they say no, but then you're able to take out less debt, and then also to shop around with those private loans, just because we might think that that first offer we get is the best offer that we're going to get, but actually the offers can vary as far as interest rates. And when we're talking about numbers that are that big, it can make a huge difference if we're paying a 6% interest rate or an 8% interest rate or a 4% interest rate on our student loan. So I would say try to reduce the amount as much as possible, and then shop around for the best rate on those private loans.
Good advice. Now, for those that are maybe graduating college, they're getting into the workforce, what are the biggest pieces of advice that you would want to send to them as far as their finances go?
I'd say the biggest, so first, again, just you're not alone in figuring this out, and financial adulting, so that is the name of my new book. Being a financial adult is about taking small, consistent steps. And so I think sometimes with a lot of different goals, but specifically our finances, we view improving in that area that it has to be this overnight transformation, that I wake up, I spend the whole weekend making my financial plan, and I'm a new person. But that sets us up for failure because it's too much of a jump. And so taking small, consistent steps that are manageable, that feel like we can keep improving, I think is the way to go, because then we're improving and learning all year round. And then something that I wished that I did more of, and I know that so many looking back at the beginning of their careers wish they did, is start saving for retirement, because when we're starting young, we have so much time to allow our money to grow and compound, and it just makes it so much easier on us later. And that money is coming out pre-tax typically when it's a 401k, so it actually feels less painful than you'd expect. So I'd say, looking back, that's something that a lot of people that I talk to wish they put more aside for retirement and let it grow for them.
And we've talked so much here at the Digital Desk about debt and what debt can do as far as your mental health and various other things that it can do. Do you feel, I love the name of the financial adulting. I love that. But do you feel like that one reason you decided to put this book together is because a lot of times people build up that debt while they're young, and then after they get out of college, they've built up all this debt as they're starting their new job. Do you feel like a lot of that debt ends up getting built up early on in life, and then you're just spending time trying to pay it back?
Definitely is a big part of stress in the younger generation, and something you mentioned about the booths during college and getting a free t-shirt and having, understanding that when we're paying that minimum payment, it isn't actually potentially making any dent in the balance, and our credit card could still be growing. So there's so much there, and I do think there's so much shame. First of all, there's a lot of stress around debt, especially when we're starting our careers and we might not have a lot of extra income to go towards those debt payments, but then also just the shame that comes with debt. And so I first love to talk, in the book I talk about what debt is, and it's really just money we owe.
All right, so each and every month what we like to do is talk with Google, because a lot of times, we kind of get an inclination of what's happening in the world, what's happening in this country when it comes to the searches that Google gets each and every month or throughout a given time period to really kind of understand, what people are talking about, what they're looking up, how they're seeing certain things. And so each month we like to bring in a Google expert. We have Google technical expert Jennifer Jones joining us on the Digital Desk this morning. And Jennifer, good morning to you. I always like going and looking at kind of the odd trends, the odd news for the month of April as we review different things. And I have to say, nail art. Is there any explanation why nail art was one of the things that people searched in Google this month? How are you?
I'm great, and I'm also quite interested in the huge trend of nail art. It's certainly something that seems to not be new. Last year, there were about 5 billion, with a B, billion global searches on YouTube for nail art. It's quite a trend, and it's something that we're seeing in an increasing popularity across YouTube and across the creator trends.
Yeah, it's something that I'm actually going to have to Google later today, to figure out exactly what the deal is behind all this. But looking at some other searches, I'm seeing, entertainment, the Barbie movie, Coachella, of course, culture. We have Easter and Passover. No surprise there, along with Tax Day. Science, with Earth Day this month. I mean, a lot of things happening in the month of April. Did you see maybe more searches this month than previous months?
Well, it certainly depends on the topic. You hit a few of the entertainment highlights, which are always popular among folks who turn to Google and across the globe. And you're right, Barbie did drive the searches in April. No surprise there. It's a highly anticipated film, which is going to be directed by Greta Gerwig and packed with Hollywood stars. But a huge increase in searching for Barbie. And anything Barbie core or Barbie related this last month.
Right, and it's interesting looking at everything that's happened in the month. I mean, NBA basketball, of course, we're in Memphis. The Grizzlies won last night and so they've made the series with the Lakers 3-2. I see that the NBA scoring record was something people searched, along with the Masters. Of course, that was just a couple of weeks ago, and pickleball. And we know everyone that loves pickleball is the first thing out of their mouth is, well, it's the fastest growing sport in America. I get that, but I guess now people are finally searching it now, huh?
Yeah, you're right. And there's a lot of interest in general about the sport. There are people who are searching with a deeper interest in the sport who maybe have played for a while, who are searching, what is the best pickleball paddle to use. And then we've seen a large trend of just some basics about the sport, like what is pickleball? How is it played? Can you play it on a tennis court? So it seems that it's all over the map with the level of interest, but I don't think that it's going away.
Yeah, there's no question. The local gym where I go, it's like pickleball courts have taken over some of the basketball courts. Something else when it comes to food, you guys always list kind of food there. National Burrito Day, and I'm assuming that was in April. And our country's fascination with Taco Tuesday and just either Tex-Mex or Mexican food. Not surprised National Burrito Day was at the top of the list. What were people searching for with regards to that?
Yeah, so local burrito spots near me were very popular as far as, utilizing Google Maps and being able to find a spot next to you to get a quick burrito. We saw some top trends with several local chains, but also some national chains when it comes to the delicious treat of a burrito. It's such a versatile and easy to eat dish. Not surprisingly to many, Chipotle was the #1 national researched burrito chain, followed closely by Qdoba, and then Moe's Burritos came in third in our top trends across April for burritos.
What else kind of made your eyebrows go up a little bit looking at the list for April trends? Anything else?
Coachella, of course, we talked about it briefly at the top. It was a hugely popular trend, one of our largest trends. A lot of folks wondering about how many people attend the 2-week festival in California, which is held every April. If you want to know, about 250 people over the 2 weeks of Coachella. And of course, a lot of folks were interested in headliner Frank Ocean, who took the stage on the first weekend, but then had a bit of a difficult set and wasn't able to return for the second weekend and was replaced by another band. And so a lot of people were searching about news for Frank and news for who was going to replace him.
Okay, interesting. Well, we have our own Beale Street Music Festival coming up in about a week or so. So that's something that we're going to be watching. These are all fascinating. Just kind of see where the country is, the current events, that sort of thing. People are watching. I know that people can see these Google trends for themselves. Tell us where we can find it.
Yeah, you don't have to wait for me to come on a monthly basis. You can go anytime and see what is trending and what is spiking live at google.com/trends. Check it out and let us know what you think.
Jennifer Jones with Google, we appreciate you breaking down the trends for April. Thanks very much.
Always a pleasure.
You know who's always sunny and bright? That's Talisa Franklin, our friend at WAVN The Trend. Talisa Franklin, you are so positive. You are such a gift to us. How are you on this Tuesday?
I am amazing. See, I got my arms out, baby, because it's that summertime weather today. I'm so happy. Yes.
I love it. I love it, Talisa. And I know that you're always busy. You're always keeping us up to date on what's going on and the positive things that are happening around the Bluff City. So what's up?
Absolutely. You know what? I can't do nothing but positivity, right? I wake up in the morning excited. I go to bed excited. I wake up again the next day and I'm excited about what we are doing right here in our amazing city called Memphis. There's no place I would rather live than in Memphis, Tennessee. And I'm going to tell you all, there's so many great things happening. This Thursday, y'all, I want to invite you all to the CeCe Winans. Oh my gosh, she's so inspirational. The Believe for It. She's live in concert in Memphis this Thursday, y'all. So all roads lead out to hope. It's going to be an amazing event. She's such a jewel to the body of Christ, and she speaks so much positive light in her music. So I'm knowing that if you're having a challenging week, you need to get in that. You need to get in that arena and say, "I'm gonna believe God for whatever I know that He told me to do." So this Thursday, y'all, believe for it live in concert. The CeCe Winans, the pretty woman herself. Get there, and because it's going to be a whole weekend of great things, celebrating people, just enjoying life. And then y'all know on Friday, come on, get ready, get the tacos and get the chimichangas and all that stuff ready, because it's going to be a live party, right? At Overton Square, Cinco de Mayo, baby. We're going to celebrate. I am so excited to celebrate this amazing event, this amazing movement, this amazing holiday with our Hispanic brothers and sisters that's right here in the Bluff City. So I need everybody, because y'all know we are one Memphis, right? We want big Memphis at that. So let's celebrate Cinco de Mayo on this Friday, and let's just love on people. If you've seen somebody from the Hispanic culture, I challenge you to give them a big old hug this weekend and just give them some love, right? And let's celebrate Cinco de Mayo on this Friday. And then, y'all, I want to say something that is so special to me. This Sunday, I am so proud of the amazing young lady named by the name of Cynthia Denise. She has an amazing vision of calling the influential 20 Black Tie Gala Awards, right? I am excited that she chose little old me, y'all, to be the keynote speaker for this event. And I'm very honored because Cynthia has been really a really champion here in our city, doing great things and trying to do wonderful events with her Mademoiselle Vince brand. And I'm just excited to support her, to lend my little voice to the people at the Influential 20. And then I just want to shout out these people that is being honored, right? Because I believe it is important for us to honor, especially these amazing 20 people that's here in Memphis that's doing absolutely incredible things. Angelina Parham, Tamika Porter, Princess Woodard, Erica Lee, Ashley Williams, Willie Jackson III, Stephanie Times, Dr. Tonise Randolph, Patrick Newman, Crystal Yarbrough, Christian Harris, Dr. Nicholas Manning, the Miller Girls, Edward and Jamie Musgrove, Dr. Tia Celeste Turner, Dr. Nevada Jackson, Raymond Brown, Laquita Todd Barnes, oh my God, Antonio Huntsman, Jamie Taylor, and these people are truly our change agents that I love dearly, as they're receiving the Lifetime Achievement Awards. Christy Chandler, y'all know Christy Chandler and YAG, Young Actors Guild, that's doing so many great things for young people. Paula Michelle Martin, she's a veteran and she came back to Memphis to serve. And my brother, my twin, my friend, Pastor Ricky D. Floyd, the proud pastor of Pursuit of God, she's honoring all these great people. And I'm just excited to be the keynote speaker. My dear brother in radio, Michael Adrian Davis, is over on 88.5. He's going to be the host. You know, y'all, we're going to have a good time, right? You got an amazing host. Y'all got to, you know, I'm going to do a little keynote speaking. I'm going to try to speak some positivity in the people's lives to continue for people to continue what they're doing. He's doing great things in Memphis. And Andrew, that's what Memphis is about. Let's shine the light on the great things. Listen, we know bad things are happening. They're happening all around the world. But I just challenge every Memphian, everybody that's right here in our beautiful Bluff City. Instead of saying something negative about our city, let's say something bright about our city. Let's say something positive about our city, because it's the what you think of our city is going to make everybody else say, I never thought about it that way. So I need everybody today and the days to come, I need you to think positive, speak positive, all about the great Bluff City, Memphis. And y'all know Memphis in May kicks off this weekend. Party. Let's get it, y'all. Let's get it.
Absolutely. I could not agree with you more. Talisa Franklin, it sounds amazing. That event, Sunday night, Black Tie Awards Gala, sounds great. I mean, Talisa Franklin and Michael Adrian Davis, oh my gosh, that is going to be a lot of fun and very entertaining for the crowd. Talisa, we love you, we appreciate you, and always enjoy talking with you, and I love how you highlight so many great things and great people happening across Memphis and the Mid-South. Thank you, my sister. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, that does it for us here in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. We have Action News 5's midday report coming up at the top of the hour with Ariana Poindexter, and then we have another edition of the Digital Desk tomorrow morning beginning at 8 o'clock with Amanda Hanson. See you then.